sustainable well-being, sorry, of youth across the world and has further ignited action to set the pace for global participation of world youth in the development agenda. This gave birth to the ECOSOC Youth Forum, and in these 10 years, you have rendered it youths, sorry, have rendered their voices and participation to the issues and concerns of the youth to global discussion. The ECOSOC Youth Forum annual program created opportunity for young people of the world to share their ideas in discussions at the United Nations and utilize their creative and mental innovations to contribute solutions towards priority issues of concern to youth and well-being. The ECOSOC Youth Forum has given youth the opportunity to address at the United Nations on pertinent issues that could advance the sustainable future achievements of SDGs and decades of action. The 2021 ECOSOC Youth Forum is unique as it is faced with a depth challenges of COVID-19 disrupting the usual conductive environment of global networking among youth and platforms to exhibit the inherent potentials to the development agenda. Today we have some eloquent speakers. We have some well-versed youths. We have some individuals here, both young and old. And I know the older ones, you can still consider yourself a youth in some form or fashion. If you're a youth still out there, let me know. Because hey, my mother still tells me that she's a youth. My father still run around the place as if he's still 16. But I know that we all have that youthful side within us. So without any further ado, I would like to welcome Dr. Ada Okika, the Chancellor, sorry, for Youth Gather Global, as she comes to give us the opening remarks before we dive into the meat of what we're here for today. Dr. Ada, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Bannister, for that opening remarks. Want to say congratulations to all youth from the member states for marking the 10th anniversary of the ECOSOC Youth Forum. It has been a journey of testimony for all youth, for having the opportunity to get involved with the work of the United Nations. Most of the youth through our organization have utilized this ECOSOC forum to learn about the working of United Nations for the world youth. So it's a very big ceremony, a big moment for us to rejoice and be thankful to the United Nations for giving the young adults the opportunity of being not left behind in the course of the Sustainable Development Goals. So this event is organized by the Center for SDG Global Education USA, the Sub-Saharan Open University, and His Royal Highness Shehu Chindo Yamusatu Foundation, in partnership with other organizations like McBan Arts, Enlightened Christian Gathering, the Walmart ICC Department of Youth, Music and Cultural Affairs, the African Cultural Promotions, Inc., the Miss CARICOM Foundation International, the Family Support Organizations, Jacob Abe Institute of Leadership Studies. And we are thankful that we are able to come together to bring the youths across the world from different regions to a discussion today. So the vehicle of delivery is just virtual. Of course, we know that we are still dancing to the new normal of having a virtual event. And the youth we have to introduce in order to get the youth across the world to more knowledge about the United Nations. We introduce the opportunity for them to make a 3-minute presentation as an open debate representing various countries on issues concerning the youth. So we have like open debate addressing the plight of world youth on economic development in COVID era. challenges to youth social life and habitual peace, challenges of youth environment to their growth and well-being. We are going to have education on the 6 UN committees tomorrow, and we'll conclude with Youth Gather Global Legacy Education as a platform for innovation action on gaps and challenges in engaging youth for the decade of action. We're also having consideration towards the best practices and lessons to put desired resources for strategic input to the theme of 2021 ECOSOC Youth Forum and the global engagement of youth for the sustainable future. We do hope that from the presentations and of the special guests, the speakers, and the youth, that the outcome for the two-day event will work to readdress the 4 E's of Youth Gather Global to action-oriented outcome on the theme of the 2021 ECOSOC Youth Forum in contribution to educating the youth through exchange programs and empowering them to develop their entrepreneurial skills for the decade of action. So I want us to encourage ourselves to avail ourselves to listen and then learn from the presenters, and then we'll take it forward from there. I thank you for coming. Over to you, Dr. Vanessa.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ada. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So as you know, we have some dignitaries here with us. We have a few ambassadors. We have a few prince and princesses here joining us, Royal Highnesses. And then we have a few officials from the UN and other countries. So we want to say welcome and thank you very much as well for bracing us with your presence. And we look forward to hearing your contribution in this open forum that we're having here today. So to get the ball rolling, let's start, and we will now be having some statements being given to us on building an inclusive and effective path for the achievement of the 2030 agenda in the context of the decade of action and delivery for sustainable development. So coming to speak to us, our very first speaker would be Ishmael Dodo, Policy Advisor to the Office of the UN Secretary General, Special Advisor for the Sahel, UNHQTRS, New York.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I hope everyone can hear me. I would say congratulations, Dr. Ada, and also like to welcome all the distinguished panelists, royal princesses, and also the His Excellencies, and our distinguished, very indefatigable young youth from various countries who are plotting, and then other entities on the development spheres who have also been invited to this program to have such an interesting discussion. I must say that the topic of discussion today is extremely important, is very critical, because we are almost moving towards the dawn of recovery, and it is important that we think about how to recover from the post-COVID era very especially in ways that are very unique and also very innovative. In other words, business as usual will never be the case if we were to recover. So 2 things that every nation needs to do is to recover and to look at the status of that recovery compared to pre-COVID, and then look at how to move forward in a new normal of recovery. And really juxtapose that within the context of the Sustainable Development Goals and how the decade of action and how we should look at it. So I would look at my presentation by being very thought-provoking and highlighting certain questions that will cause us to think as we go through the 2 days of our discussion. And mine is really to set the basis for some of the discussion we're going to have, and I believe that as I'll have the opportunity to also join subsequent discussions and share some thoughts. I would say that in the context of the COVID, and when we look at where we are today, many governments around the world are actually trying to do a lot to help their citizens to recover. And the IMF fiscal monitor updates shows that the governments have been supporting supporting citizens and organizations during COVID. It outlines that if you look at the global physical support in terms of the quantum of money that has been expended to support any actions around the COVID, it's very staggering, $14 trillion as at December 2020. And this was an increase of 2.2 trillion from October 2020. So a lot of money is floating around. But one of the things that we need to understand is that it's not just about spending. It's not just about the support that you give, but the quality of the support and the extent to which this support is actually addressing what I would call the systemic issues which the COVID situation have been aggravating. So government needs to meet, for example, today, the issue is about vaccination, the equity vaccination. Unless we ensure that everyone is vaccinated, we are all going to come into the same situation as before. And there are many countries who are going through a lot of challenges. And the challenges that they are going through pre-COVID has been exacerbated by the issue of COVID. Let me take, for example, the countries in the Sahel where they spend 70% of their GDP on trying to address issues of jihad and violent extremism, from the Boko Haram to the issues of Taliban and so on. And so the violent extremism itself is taking over 70% of their GDP. They are left with a window of 30% within which to look at where to deploy money in education, in health, and well-being of the people. And even then, they don't generate enough. So then when they have to deploy money to look at the issues of vaccination, you can imagine the situation that they have been faced with. So there is a certain discussion that we need to have on the issue of equity, that how are countries going to be helped to emerge themselves out of this COVID situation by addressing vulnerabilities and ensuring that they still maintain a certain path towards sustainable development. And this is a very important question to ask. So most countries will need to do more with less, considering the increasing tight budget that they have. And many countries have been looking at how to support firms so they can come out of it. Now, one of the things that I think in the context of the sustainable development goals we need to think about, and also for you, is I want to bring the issue in reality. I want to make the issue very contextual as to the African situation and West Africa in particular. We have a continent and we have a part of the sub-region and it's 60 to 70%, 60 to, let's say, 60 to 70% are youth. Most of them have been unemployed, or if they are employed, they are not systematically employed in the formal sector. We have a part of the country in which food security is becoming an issue, whereas the paradox is that we are able to grow enough food to feed ourselves. And the estimate from the African Development Bank is that the agribusiness is going to be about $1.3 trillion business in 2030. We have a situation where the infrastructure do not exist, whether for schools or for education, for water, potable water, and so on. So we have all these human development challenges that we are faced with, and significantly affecting youth and women. Then you juxtapose that to the extreme variations in climate change and the impact of climate change on some of these elements that are festering, for example, crisis. That's what we see in the Boko Haram areas of northern Nigeria, in the central Sahel area of Mali, Niger, Burkina, the cross-border towns, and it's sort of exploding to places to the extent that we have a fragile West African situation. Now we are beginning to see some of these crisis issues moving to the east and southern Africa, particularly Mozambique. So we still have the rigors of the problems that we are faced with. And I'm just using the African context as an example because I think it's one that all of us can relate to. So we have the rigors of this. Now, the COVID situation would definitely impacted on a number of ways. The extent to which we can free fiscal resources to address issues of vaccination and recovery and to bring and create new jobs, strengthen the infrastructure, and so on and so forth. And then the other way is how to ensure there's an adaptation, a climate adaptation, or also investment will go into mitigating climate change. Now, all of these challenges that are painted are so grievous that the question you need to ask yourself is, who would help the continent to address this? Would the continent have to rely on external resources to do it? Or the continent have to begin to rethink about certain innovative practices that and policies that will enable it to invest practically in the youth as the future of the country, with the right skills that they need, with the right expertise that they need to unleash innovation that will address the issues that we are faced with, to the extent that we can create the wealth and the prosperity that we needed, and to be able to then overcome the lasting impact of this COVID, which is going to be with us for a number of years. That, for me, must be the policy discussion that we need to have. In a decade of action, how do we come up with a strategy to accelerate employment and livelihood creation for the teeming youth that we have, to bring about, therefore, the prosperity that we need? How do we use our resources very strategically and add value to our resources, create more enterprises and industries around resources that we have? How do we build the technical expertise that are needed to unleash the creation of these values that we need for resources? What difference should our education look like? What difference should our policy look like? What difference should our economic policy look like? Could we come to a situation where we would say to ourselves, in a 1.3 trillion agribusiness economy, 80% of which will be occupied by the youth, most of which are between 15 to 25, that they will be the next frontiers of leaders that will grow the food we eat and will eat the food that they grow? Could we come to the situation where we will create an innovative strategy where even the clothes that we wear will be manufactured on the continent? Or even when it comes to the issue of digitization, that the mineral resources we have, the rare earth minerals that we have, that are stimulating the production of mobile phones and other electronic gadgets that we use, can we be part of, can we create this opportunity on that continent so that we will be part of that supply chain? Is it possible that we are no longer going to export raw materials but add value to it? Is it possible that on every table that we find ourselves, where we eat, where vegetables are all grown, that is it possible that we can deploy strategic digital economy for our continent that will enable us to build resilience and adapt towards the climate change, as well as create opportunities that we needed? These, for me, will be the questions that we need to have to ask ourselves. And in a decade of action, our solutions that we're going to prefer to these questions should help us to accelerate towards human development. We should no longer begin to think our economy in the context of GDP. We should consider it in the context of human development. What is it that we're doing with our education? How quality is it? Could our graduates from our educational system be able to build the bridges we need, to construct the roads that we need, to set the critical questions that we needed in order to bring about some unleashment of a certain powerful economy? What kind of health system do we want to build? Do we want to rely on external parties? Can we have all the quality surgeons we needed, the quality nurses and doctors we needed? Could all our health systems be capacitated to address our issue? What kind of sanitation? What kind of water? What kind of philosophy we want to have for the teeming generation of youth that is coming up? Could we come to the point where we will say, this is that contribution that we are making to accelerate development in our spheres? This, for me, will be if we can find answers to the questions that I've highlighted to provoke. This, for me, I believe, will be the way for us to begin to make an incremental growth. And I think strengthening the private sector will be extremely important, allowing the private sector to partake in human development. They can invest in education, health, and water, and so on. How do we partner the private sector to do that? And how do we ensure that the private sector we are dealing with are private sectors that are homegrown from our own continent? What are some of the things that we need to do to bring in civil society and other foundations and others that are coming in? Can we stimulate that partnership so strongly? And how can we then force a government, also co-create a government that is working for the people, and it is by the people? This, for me, will be some of the things for us to think about as we look at the decade of action. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, you've just heard from Ishmael Dudu, Policy Advisor to the Office of the UN Secretary General's Special Advisor for Sahel, UNHQ's TRS, New York. Ladies and gentlemen, coming to speak to us next, His Excellency Ambassador Osman Sarki, former Deputy Permanent Representative of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to the United Nations. Ambassador Sarki, over to you, sir. Please unmute yourself.
Yes. Thank you very much, audience. That's, am I being heard loudly?
Yes, loud and clear. Go ahead.
Well, thank you, Excellency, for the introduction and for so ably chairing our meeting of this afternoon here in Nigeria and morning over there in New York. Let me first of all thank Dr. Ada Okika, my compatriot, for actually inviting me to address this session and to interact with a global audience on such a very important and auspicious occasion like the ECOSOC Youth Forum, which is actually commemorating its 10th anniversary. Now, the anniversary is taking place against the backdrop of a very serious challenge confronting the entire globe, as you know, which is the COVID-19 outbreak. It has challenged our thinking. It has challenged our governance method. It has challenged our strategies for dealing with emergencies. It has challenged the way we even organize our economies. And it has now actually forced us to think or rethink about the arrangement of entire human affairs and to redefine collaborative strategies and structures. And that is the importance of COVID-19, in my view, in terms of challenging us to think afresh about interrelationships and collaboration and partnership. Let me note, the presence of the Royal Highnesses, particularly His Royal Highness, the Emir of Kefi in Nasarawa State of Nigeria, and also other Royal Highnesses and Excellencies for being on this forum. Let me welcome all the distinguished participants and ladies and gentlemen. The Youth Forum is holding against the backdrop, as I said, of COVID-19, but there are opportunities that could be actually, spun off by this COVID-19 outbreak, which should be seized by the global community, particularly the young people who are more articulate and adept in the use of social media, in the use of the internet, in the use of modern means of communication, to channel grievances, to advance opinions and advice and solutions, so that their views can be mainstreamed into policies and programs, so that the SDGs, the implementation of the SDGs, can be driven by young people themselves towards certain desired objectives that have been encapsulated in the 17 goals and about 163 targets, I believe. This is very important because without youth participation, without youth enthusiasm in the SDGs, it cannot be carried forward meaningfully towards the desired objective. It is important that governments centrally place young people in the advancement, in the development, in the strategizing towards the achievement of the SDGs. And I think the Global Forum, this Youth Forum, is an opportunity to galvanize youth opinion, to address certain key challenges in the world. Number one, to address the COVID-19, which is really taxing our resources and temperaments on how we can get ourselves out of this pandemic without really destroying established systems like our economies, particularly in the agriculture area, in vulnerable areas, our social relations, our politics, and economic organization. The other thing is young people should ask questions pertaining to the rise of extreme poverty in the world. It's reported that actually about 3 billion people around the world don't have access to clean drinking water. Nearly 2 billion people don't have housing, and several billions more don't have decent jobs to pay for their day-to-day living. And the COVID-19 has exposed the vulnerabilities and weaknesses even in the strongest economies of the world, where people have been lining up for food and for water and for drink, people being evicted from their homes because they could not work to get the paycheck to pay the rent. So these are issues that must be addressed squarely. Extreme poverty is rising. And I want to refer all of you very kindly and humbly to a recent report by the United Nations Financing for Development Report 2021, in which actually the glaring and stark implications of the COVID-19 was brought out. Whereas $16 trillion was spent on mitigating the effects of COVID-19 in many countries. That is like bailing out and providing, assistance to businesses and to communities. Only 20% of that amount came to developing countries. 80% remain in the developed countries. And it is also clear that the COVID vaccine rollout did not really cover the entire developing countries. On the contrary, the huge chunk of the COVID vaccine produced remain in developed countries. This disparity exposed the disparity between not only personal and individual riches and poverty, but even between countries. And I think it's very important for me to refer you to the statement captured in the document of the United Nations that revealed this disparity and also brought out the stark reality about what COVID-19 has thrown up in terms of the latent or hidden crisis in our societies. Number one, as I said, the crisis of extreme poverty. The second one is the crisis or insidious nature or phenomena of racism. Racism is actually a danger to the entire world because it targets people based on the color of their skin. And we in Africa and people of African descent are the major victims today of racism around the world. And our governments must rise up to the task to remind the world about the victimhood of racism, that we are the victims and we need redress, not only in terms of economic redress and so forth, but also in rebuilding and recapturing the dignity of the African person and people of African descent. It is very crucial because during crises like pandemics, race actually comes to the surface and there is a free-for-all fight over who benefits from what. And the weakest people, who today, unfortunately, are people of African descent and Africans, they get left behind in terms of sustainability and development. So it is up to our governments to speak out. And more importantly, it is up to young people to decry the rising tide of racism around the world and place it on the global agenda, such as in the Human Rights Council, in the General Assembly of the United Nations and other places, for it to be addressed and articulated. One question that comes to my mind is, where is the Durban Declaration on Racism, Racial Discrimination, and Xenophobia today? Why is it not quoted as part of the global instrument to entrench human rights and to give justice? It is very critical that African countries, Caribbean countries, Latin American countries, African Americans and Africans in the diaspora to raise this issue and place it on the global agenda. It is as important as climate change. It is as important as peace and security. It is as important as defining the collective importance and significance and dignity of humanity. The other issue I want to raise for young people to take note of is climate change. Climate change is a reality, it is here, and there is nothing we can do about it until and unless we develop strategies and global collaborative frameworks for action. I'm very happy that the President of the United States of America, His Excellency Joe Biden, is calling for a summit, a global summit involving African leaders and others to discuss the issue of climate change. And his initiative is driven by none other than former Secretary of State, Senator John Kerry. This is very significant. We should not be laid back about it in Africa because we are in the eye of the storm. It is affecting us. The gentleman, Mr. Ismail Dodo, who spoke before me, has alluded to the crisis in the Sahel and the Lake Chad Basin. You cannot divorce this crisis, which is extending eastwards into the Horn of Africa, from the devastating impacts of climate change. We are getting drier and drier in our region. Water and access to forage is becoming less and less. Communal conflict is rising. Poverty is increasing. So climate change for Africa is a reality. We must live up to it. Young people must expose the entrenched dichotomies and disconnections in the address of climate change in terms of mitigation and placing of safeguards and remedial measures in their countries. They should give advice. They should go out into the field and conduct research. So apart from the American initiative, as you all know, the Glasgow conference, the COP26 is coming up in November. I think this forum, the ECOSOC Youth Forum, should mobilize global youth opinion and take it to Glasgow to be part of the 26th COP session, whereby a determined effort based on the vision of young people can be made so that a global policy that can be brought down to the regional, sub-regional, and national levels could be developed and effectively implemented. And here I would like to refer, and central to this will be to address health questions, nutrition questions, access to clean water, access to decent housing, and other things that form the composite aspect of decent living, and also to attain the vision of the Sustainable Development Goals. And it is very important that as this meeting today is taking place, that is the ECOSOC Youth Forum is taking place in Washington, I believe, the spring meeting of the IMF and World Bank is taking place. Professor Jeffrey Sachs of Columbia University has penned an article yesterday where he said $650 billion must be spent, most of it in developing countries, in order to mitigate the impacts of COVID-19, which is actually another factor that compounds the impact of climate change, the impact of extreme poverty, the impact of gender disparities, and also youth unemployment, and so forth. So the crisis we're facing is not only national, is not only regional, but it's global, international. And it can only be met frontally when global cooperation is entrenched and when the global leadership, that is, first at the multilateral level and at the national level, converge towards finding solutions and implementing agreed programs of action based on centrally on the core elements of the Sustainable Development Goals and other global development initiatives. Let me point out that in Addis Ababa in 2014, we adopted the Addis Ababa Framework of Action, that is the Financing for Development report and document and strategies. It is very critical that the 2021 Financing for Development report should be studied carefully by young people to know where opportunities are that could be leveraged towards actually holding governments accountable and the international community responsible for translating words into actions, words into deeds in terms of financing of sustainable development and laying out international rules towards exploitation of natural resources. Our oceans are being prowled upon by fisheries, by fishing fleets from other countries, from other parts of the world, devastating our natural resources. Our forests in Africa are disappearing. Our rivers are being polluted. Our farmlands are being degraded through no fault of ours, but simply because we cannot insist on certain policies and guidelines to be followed. It is very important that the international community assists us in enforcing laws and regulations over extraction of natural resources. Africa today is the focal point of extraction of natural resources. And if we Africans, our governments and young people in particular, do not stand up and proclaim the importance of rules-based system of extracting natural resources and insisting on shared values, what applies in other countries must apply in Africa in terms of control and mitigation of disasters and dangers and other fallouts that come out of extraction of natural resources. We cannot proceed without a system, without proposing sets of rules to be followed. And the United Nations, particularly ECOSOC, and the Economic Commission for Africa, and the African Union, Africa Development Bank, and other institutions can help in setting standards and monitoring exploitation and the extraction of natural resources. The other area that I wish to really speak about in terms of—
Sorry, Ambassador. Just to let you know, you
yeah.
have 1 more minute, sorry.
Okay, very good. I have sent my written report actually to the organizer. They can circulate it.
Perfect.
I just want to say that the institution, the institute that I belong to, the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies in Nigeria, advises government on public policy issues. And we have a lot of research that is being done around sustainable development, which we will be able to, or we should be very happy to share with the rest of the world in terms of collaborating on systems dynamics, that is to say, in terms of how problems can be resolved based on individual national experiences. So on this note, I would like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to raise a few issues around sustainability, around the COVID-19 outbreak, and around climate change, so that this can be the focus of study, of agitation, if you like, by young people around the world. So thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Usman Saki, former Deputy Permanent Representative of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to the United Nations. Thank you very much for such a wonderful presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Ada, we have the Ambassador's presentation. We will circulate it to everyone. As we know, there's a lot of information there that we all can grasp from and use. So coming to speak to us next will be Ms. Thembisil Mahua, Global Ambassador, Youth Opportunities, South Africa. Ms. Mahua?
Hello, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
All right, thank you very much, Your Excellency Program, all excellencies and all protocol observed. I am Thembisile Mahua from South Africa. I am the Global Ambassador representing South Africa for Youth Opportunities. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Princess Tepi and Youth Gather for the invitation to speak at this auspicious United Nations ECOSOC Youth Forum 2021. My address is directed mostly at young people. As you can see, I am a young person, the young people of the world. It would have been a pleasure to be with you, feel your presence and the power that you all possess. However, we are here. We are on Zoom, we are on social media, we are on national television. History. It has proved to be one of the most, many of our beloved ones, destabilized our health and raised a lot of mental issues with it. Our economy has been greatly affected and we have lost jobs, we have lost opportunities, and we have lost so much more. However, while we also need to be aware of other issues surrounding this pandemic. I'm sorry to be the one to say this, but the vaccine is not going to be solving all our problems. We need to take care of our health. This is right in line with SDG 3, good health and well-being. We need to take care of ourselves. There is no one fix to all our health problems. Our future will be determined by how we take care of ourselves right now. At innovative ways in which we will ensure that the life will be like that. One way in which we can ensure that this is going to be done is through quality education. This is directly in line with SDG 4. We need to stop studying towards unemployable qualifications and start studying towards qualifications that will revive our economies, provide solutions to our future problems. It has also forced us to look and think differently. It has unveiled some important qualities, pointers, and the possible future. Just like this conference, we have been forced to work online through virtual platforms. The fourth industrial revolution is upon us. How have we been preparing? Are we channeling our energy into the future? Are we preparing for the future challenges, or do we want to act surprised when they occur? Are our educational systems going to provide graduates with that will lead the technological era? I would say we are going in the right direction. Young people of the world are thinking innovatively, freely, and challenging the status quo. Young people of the world are at the forefront. Young people of the world are joining causes and activities that aim to transform the world. Young people are running with you, United Nations. Young people are running with you, Youth Gather, and other progressive organizations. Give us space. Give us a seat at the table. Bring us to that discussion room, and most importantly, let us implement together. How do we build back better? By implementing the SDGs as a collective, in unity and Ubuntu. We have no other option but to build back better, stronger, and more innovatively. The time is now, and we will do it together. Ngiyabonga. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Thembisi. Thank you very much for speaking to us today. So moving on, for the sake of time, because we have a myriad of speakers, so I'd like to ask everyone, for the various sections, everyone is allotted a certain amount of time. So if we could please try and stay within that time frame, that'll be good. I will just interject slightly politely, just to let you know that you have 1 minute remaining, for the sake of time for everyone else that will have to be speaking today. All right, thank you very much. And please take that with the utmost respect. So coming to speak to us now on sustainable and resilient recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, that promotes the economic, social, and environmental dimensions of sustainable development. We'll be hearing now from Dr. Anuku, the Director General for Academy of Management Science and convener, Youth in Management Science in South Africa. Dr. Anuku.
Good afternoon, all.
Good afternoon, sir.
Speaking on knowledge management that will benefit the youth, especially in the area of enterprise development. Now, the issue here is that a lot of our people have come to appreciate that the COVID-19 is a pandemic that has actually disrupted the entire social, economic, technological system. Well, the concept of enterprise development has to do with environment. Our people, our youth, should appreciate that the future is theirs. and that the environment is divided into two. So anything they do must be in line with the macro and micro environmental variables. Every organization exists and operates within an ecosystem of free interaction and computation. Enterprise development has to do with environmental scanning and analysis. Our youths should be conversant with these things. For instance, thinking is a part of creativity. So too is reasoning. But thinking is more of acting within the box, and reasoning is acting outside of the box. And when we're able to do this, it falls within the concept of entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship uh, is a conceptual approach to enterprise development through the articulation of new values to satisfy a need and generate wealth. The bastardization of the economic system as well as the social system by the pandemic, to a great extent, means that there has to be a new way of doing business, especially in enterprise development. Things are now becoming digitized. The villages have, or rather the world has become a global village, and then things must be transacted on real time. Now, if one is not creative, if a youth is not resourceful, they will always follow the bandwagon and perhaps do it, half-baked or wrongly, as it were. Creativity is a non-rational discovery process that precedes everything that is new and useful. Our youth should not only be creative in music and dance, but also in things that have some intellectual quality, intellectual value, things that are sustainable. And most of the things that are sustainable are those things that must, to a great extent, be capable of generating employment and wealth. Creativity is that which must supersede the unknown and then the impossible. So the principle of creativity is the movement of thought beyond the barrier of impossible in order to generate new pictures of new possibilities. Now, creative people usually see the gestalt. The gestalt is the total picture of whatever concept or idea that they may wish to, research upon. Now, the entrepreneurial people have the capacity also to analyze data and piece notions together for the purposes of establishing an enterprise that can generate employment and wealth. Thinking is an activity, like I said earlier on, that is more of an, inbox thing, whereas reading is something that is an outbox thing. Planning is an activity that also has to do with creativity in the sense that most enterprises start with lofty ideas, but gradually glide into quarantine for several probable reasons, most of which is because they do not have a plan. However, if we know that planning is a tedious activity that has to be painstakingly embarked upon, it results in a plan which, if religiously followed, can give us a clue towards not only sustainability but also profitability. Every enterprise must have a valid plan and a feasible strategy to sustain itself. The management of such strategies is known as strategic management. Strategic management determines the internal structure and utilization of the resources of the enterprise. The importance of planning includes preparation against uncertainty and change, and it also minimizes uncertainties and wastage of resources. A plan is a structure that results from the planning process. And for a plan to be effective, it must be consistent with the original objectives. The SWOT model is a tool for measuring capabilities and capacities of individuals, especially aspiring entrepreneurs, to test whatever project they have, whatever concept they have, whatever idea they have to ensure performance and delivery. Now, to set up a new enterprise, the idea must be generated, which is part of the creative learning that we're talking about, and then organize a preliminary survey and determine a suitable location, prepare the business plan, and register the enterprise. There is a basic new model, new venture model. The activities are one, scan the environment, two, conduct environmental analysis, do feasibility survey, draw up a business plan, register, for instance, in Nigeria, register with the Corporate Affairs Commission, and then start up the operation. There is a four-growth model propounded by Holt in 2005, and it's the four-step group model include one, pre-startup, two, the startup stage, three, the early growth stage, and later growth stage. Now, these stages must be managed efficiently for the purposes of, ensuring that there is consistency in a growth pattern so that the graph can be easily read. Business ownership, this is an interesting aspect. A lot of people do not have access to funds. They do not have access to finance. But many people do not also know what the capital market is all about. But business has to be understood the way it should be understood. Sometimes it takes people who are already graduates before they understand even the basic precepts of business. But a capital is the amount that is required to start a business. And the capital is divided into shares, and people own those shares. The people who start the enterprise are called promoters. There is an activity called the call-up activity, there's paid-up activity, there's unpaid activity. These are capital substructures. And those who subscribe to the shares of the establishment are called the shareholders. Each shareholder's contribution to the capital of the new enterprise is known as that person's equity. And the total amount paid up at the point of call-up is known as the company's stock. When the profit is shared, it is shared according to what percentage the shareholder has already invested. And that is called the dividend. The shareholding aspect of it, even the shareholding has two aspects, preferred ordinary share and then the deferred ordinary share. The preference shares are those ones that are called, tenant, as it were, tenant shares, because they only come in on fixed rates. When they collect their money, whether the company makes profit or not, at the time that is set, they leave. The ordinary shareholders, we refer to them as the landlord shareholders, because they are there. If the company makes a loss, they don't get the dividend. If they make profit, after the preference shareholders are paid, then they are paid. Now, there are three broad categories of shares: authorized share, issued share, call-up share, capital.
Excuse me, sir.
All of
Excuse me, Dr. Anuku. You have 1 minute more, sorry. You have 1 minute
Okay.
more.
No problem. Okay, thanks. Now, as to how to become a shareholder, three legal ways. You become a shareholder as a subscriber, or by acquisition, or by transmission. There's a procedure for buying and selling of shares. And these shares are things you can actually go to the stock exchange, get a broker to seek advice, and get your contract, buy
He's frozen.
Yeah, he's frozen. Up. That's the timer. Okay, I think we might have had. I think he's having some technical difficulties, so we're going to move on. Next, we have speaking to us would be Sophie and Christian, the founder for Educate First, and England, UK, and convener alternate schools for African program. So Sufyan Christian.
Hello, good
Sufyan.
afternoon.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good morning to everybody, everyone who is here. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Asita, who's kindly invited me to share my thoughts on education and alternative provision. So, first of all, I'd like to just sort of share my journey, which started in 2016, and we decided to homeschool our children. My daughter at the time was 9 and my son was 12. My daughter had a very, very large interest and still to this day in Japanese culture and language. So she embarked on learning, the different forms, katakana, hiragana, and so on. Within 6 to 8 months, she was proficient in the language. She was able to read and write Japanese text in both forms and able to translate it clearly without any prompting or any help. This was at age 9. This only happened because she had the opportunity, she had the time, and she had the resources to be able to go to a level that many of us and our children simply don't have. My son, conversely, was very interested in computer programming and coding. And he was working on something on the Kano computer platform. And he spent 3 hours, straight 3 hours, learning about the code, working out some of the problems and so on. He didn't, as they would say, he didn't come up for air at all. He didn't ask for any break or anything like that. That is because, again, same with my daughter, he had the time, he had the opportunity, he had the capacity to be able to work on something like that. So for me, that gave me a really, really exclusive insight into what happens when children are given those conditions and what can actually happen when they are able to pursue something and learn about something that they have interest in, that has relevance for them, that resonates. So with that, I will continue. So education and opportunity is something that we all believe is important factors for children and young people to have if they are to make an impact for themselves, for their communities and the world at large. We are able, us as adults are able to provide one of those areas and the means towards the other. Through our experience, connections, and general know-how, we can create the opportunities. However, education cannot be given. It must be taken. In general, children nowadays are being schooled very well and they are not being educated. And education has to be taken, as John Taylor Gatto said, when you take free will out of education, it becomes schooling. Learning is about choice. If we don't give young people a choice about what they want to learn and how, it is not a facilitation towards education, it is schooling. When I worked at a primary school last year, just before they would go out for lunch, I asked the class of 26 children, what is it, which one of you guys, is really passionate about any subject, whether it's mathematics, English, art, whatever. Most of them put their hands up. So what we did is that I said, okay, you write down your lesson plan and what you want to inform the rest of your class, and then you deliver that the next day. And every day for about 2 weeks, there was a child who came up every day and taught their peers. And there was probably about 20 to 30% of those children were really, really passionate about mathematics. And the young chap who came up and was doing stuff about algebra, I think, he was asking questions and everything else. And that was all because most of them were preparing for an upcoming test. So that in and of itself shows that when there's relevance, when we attach relevance to learning and we give the autonomy to young people, there's lots of things that we are able to unlock. If we take out the bells that signify the end of a learning time, we will see what happens with our learners who can continue what they've started and how far they can go once we remove the unconscious message that nothing is worth finishing. And we replace that with continue at your leisure. We must help our youth unlock their version of genius because they are something special. We have to provide them with autonomy over their learning and they will flourish. Now, due to the pandemic and everything else, we have seen that some parts of the world, we have seen what some parts of the world look like without school. So why don't we continue this spirit and develop centers, schools that don't school our children, but help them to become educated in something that is meaningful for them. And invariably, it will benefit them and the rest of the world. At present, children are not able to master anything that they have a love for due to a lack of time or flexibility at any given setting. Young people have an inherent capacity for innovation and ingenuity and challenge of self. If a young person is provided with an environment that nurtures curiosity and growth is fostered, then this can actualize itself into self-mastery, i.e. the genius within. What I would like to do and what I would like to be part of is to create education centers where young people will be first to educate themselves and take part in learning that has resonance and meaning, where they're not forced and they're not told it's for your own good, where teachers don't have to take work home and they're recognized for the essential work that they do. Parents will be welcomed to impart their insights as to how we can help their child. Where a young person is ready, then they can level up. And the current system is being shown for what it really is, which is outdated and in need of true alternatives.
Excuse me, sir. Just to let you know, you have 1 minute remaining.
1 minute remaining. Okay,
Yes.
I'll round up really quickly. So, as I stated earlier, education and schooling are not the same. When a young person leaves the classroom and chooses to continue to expand on that information, that is the path towards education. It's presumptuous to say that we can give a young person an education. We can certainly deliver high quality information and transmit it in a way that elicits more interest, but expecting more when true interest is absent helps no one. We, as adults, have done it our way for 200 years. It's now time that we start to do it together for the next 200. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Coming to speak to us next will be Tietsi Ngubisi. Please save me if I butchered your name. Didn't mean to. He's the CEO for We Solve Forex Foundation, South Africa. Ngubisi, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me. Am I audible enough?
Yes, go right ahead, sir. We can hear you.
Thank you very much. So my name is Tietsi Ngobese. I'm the current actuary and CEO at We Solve for X Foundation South Africa. Our slogan is solving the world's problem one equation at a time. We call ourselves the We Solve for X generation, a generation of problem solvers. So we put a simple philosophy. We want to provide an answer to a question ordinary people keep asking. How can you help me reach my fullest potential with the little that I have today? As a direct response, we develop a model which we call the We Solve for X model, equals to education plus parents minus hunger. In this model, it has helped us to incorporate all the sustainable development goals with a key focus on education. What we do, we help parents in the existing school. We teach them how to help their kids so that education continues at home while we provide the grocery benefit so that we are able to provide the element of ending hunger in our own surroundings, understanding that we're giving hope to the poorest of the poor to be able to add value and know they have a place in this world and they have value add to our own communities. This has given us, as the young youth as we are, I'm currently age 27, and it has given me great pleasure that we're able to get over 300 graduates to come who are not employed, to come and assist learners and parents in the schools. In that regards, we are creating employment, tying to the sustainable goal number 8, where we're not only looking into who can we blame or what can we do. It's about using what we have to address those shortcomings. So part of our package, because we believe that education is the most important key we can use to empower our very own communities. This has helped us to educate our parents and our communities with a campaign that we called We Solve for X, Cleaning My Planet, where every hour we clean our planet in our own communities, turning illegal dumping sites into home gardens and community gardens. Now we're seeing the results as communities are starting to sell those vegetables into their own surroundings. If you come to Katlehong and other surrounding areas in South Africa where we work, you would see the benefits when we get ordinary people doing the best. Also, with that education element, we're able to integrate waste pickers to come into play and understanding the different type of material that needs to be recycled, while we also empower our communities to be able to separate from source. Beside the COVID-19 pandemic, we were able to continue with the support that we're getting from different stakeholders to ensure that e-learning continues by getting data donations, and with the little that we have, we're able to assist learners continue to learn. But what we have seen globally, when parents are left out of the system and not being empowered with the assumption that they know what they don't know, then we have a lost generation like I was, where we keep blaming. But if we don't act today, in the next 20 years or 30 years, we'll still be complaining and saying, what have we done? So what we believe in is what we call mitiro ya vulavula. So the action speaks for itself. We are currently on the ground, day in, day out. We have over 10,000 learners in the classroom every weekend. We have over 10,000 parents who are also educated how to help themselves. So when you look at that whole model, it's self-sustainable, because now what we have done, we have said to parents, with that $17 or that 250 that you go and spend somewhere else, let's come together as a community in a stokvel type of a model where we support each other. So we are able to buy the food at cost. And from that 250 or $17, we're able to have what we call an actual model built on insurance principle. We're able to split it, pay the graduate who are not employed, educate our own parents, educate the learners in class, take care of the environment, ensure that when the environment is taken care of, is with people who understand how to take care of that environment. So we're able to pull in different partners in our own organized communities, in our own shared squatter camps and informal settlement, you name it. That's where we have the great mind and creativity coming into play to address these social issues that we face on a daily basis. So we have the solutions as victims, and we believe that working together will be able to expand the We Solve for X model, which really says if we don't have that education element in anything we do, we won't be able to have that much of an impact. This is our role, this is our responsibility. And if we don't assist our own today, in the next 30 years, 20 years, we'll be victims of crime, we'll be victims of poverty again and again. The cycle will continue. So there is no need for us to cry about crime and poverty and hunger while we have the land and the resources in our own backyard. So if you look at our home-based garden project, it's inspiring more people to understand that they can plant from home, taking it to the street, turning these illegal dumping sites into these vast majority opportunities that they're doing for themselves, and we're igniting the fire from as early as young as possible. So this is a model which we believe other African countries and other stakeholders, we are open for partnership. They can come and work with us, learn from each other, share from each other, as they say, indlela ibuzwa kwabaphambili. So those who are ahead of us, they must come and teach. As the African proverbs say, those who know must teach. So we have learned from our very own brothers and sisters and our grandmas, the indigenous systems. Now we're bringing back that whole value and philosophy of Ubuntu in our very own shacks and in our very own squatter camps, and say we are able to transform our own society in the positive light. Our model encompasses the 4 goals, which is education, no to poverty, zero hunger, climate change with action. By just mere 1 hour of having the communities to come together, we're able to pick up over 164,000 refuse bags by just donating that 1 hour. So you need to understand the collectiveness we have and the power we have as the people when we come together. As they say, the power belongs to the people. We sometimes joke about it, we call ourselves the state government, because we are no longer accepting things that we cannot change, but we are changing things that we cannot accept by following our principle of solving the world's problem 1 equation at a time. And we are the We Solve for X generation. And we're looking forward to bring that whole support and assisting others that really need assistance. But the solution is within us. And as we continue to say, there cannot be any solution for us without us, because it's never meant for us. But we are taking the stand to lead in our own surrounding in different forms in the best way we can, to ensure that we deliver on our self-promise, to ensure that we build a future for the next generation, and ensure by the time we reach the Vision 2030, we would have work to show and we would have built our own institution, and ensure that collectively with our Stockfells and the empowerment education that you are giving to our very own communities, they're now able to finance themselves, and understanding that there is no need to always continue to beg, but we can come together with the little that we have today to make a difference and plant a seed for the next future generation that is coming. And we make sure that we see the future that we want, because the only way to create the future is to make it yourself. And we are here to lead that whole involvement in saying it's time we solve our own problems, solving the world's problem 1 equation at a time. That's our main philosophy, and we believe in that, and we are here to do it. We are doing it. We hope to inspire everyone. This coming Saturday, to just take an hour, go to a school, assist learners the best way you can. Go to a community, pick up waste in that corner, turn it into a vegetable garden. That becomes sustainable, and help our very own with the little that you have. But education becomes the most centerpiece that ensure sustainabilities, that even if our leaders are not there tomorrow, they will continue without us, because they will have the foundation and the basics on how to do it, and even do it better, and inspire more innovation in these places where there is hope. So we have that hopeful maths equation. Thank you very much for that opportunity. And to all the partners and the supporters that ensure the vision is continued, Scotial, PPF Ekurhuleni, our own government with the feeding scheme that they're doing for our own communities, we thank you for that support. And if it wasn't for them, as a street vendor, someone who had no hope, who couldn't afford any education, but was given a chance to rise again, and today is one of those actually adding value to their own society that we come of. So we encourage all professionals to go back to their own surroundings and have an impact with their skill that they have today, and not let their research stay in papers, but they must translate it to practicality. And if they need assistance, we are here to show them how. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Ngubisi. Coming to speak to us now, we're moving on. We're now moving into the next segment, which is setting the pace for a decade of action, of delivery. So we'll be hearing from speakers who will be enlightening us on the youth-centered response, youth in the COVID era, building back better. So we'll be hearing voices from youths. So coming to speak to us first, she is a youth.
Youth leaders.
So don't feel that she's not a youth. She's a leader in the community of youths. She's an exceptional woman. She has done an exceptional job, and she's a part of my mother country, my hometown. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Her Excellency Ambassador Dr. Monica Sanchez. She's the president for Miss CARICOM Foundation International and the visionary for Building Back Better. Dr. Monica Sanchez, over to you.
Greetings, all panelists and audience, in acknowledging all protocol and addressing the theme of this discussion, Youth Together Globally in the Decade of Action, Recovery After COVID-19 and Building Back Better. Let me acknowledge His Excellency, Mr. Duo, as he stated at the beginning of this forum, the importance of financial support in Building Back Better. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
In Building Back Better, growth and development must be redefined as it is agreed that building back better, inclusive, green, and resilient recovery must be shared globally. Concern of COVID-19 crisis has opened the door to re-examine the need, opportunities, the available assistance, and the balance of distribution of aid to all communities, including marginalized and vulnerable communities. My 5-point emphasis on this is: one, people must be the heart of this recovery. Two, government must address this investment in green recovery with emphasis on youth participation. Three, building back better, a marginalized, healthy climate, access to food, and social society vulnerability. Of women and youths. We believe in the re-education of communities culturally. We engage the youths to be the conduit between the elders and social programs. Cultural education is our #1 focus. We believe that if we are to recover globally, then every cultural society must have equal access to information and all resources of help. They must share, these communities must have a way of communicating, a way of accessing these resources. And we believe that the youth must have an important role in this process. In a decade of action, no one must be left behind, which includes all communities. And in Building Back Better, we must emphasize the crisis that COVID-19 has created in our developed and underdeveloped countries and communities. And we must recognize the important role of the youth in participating to help this road of recovery, to help us to reach a better and more sustainable, accountable pathway in Building Back Better. The youths must be involved. We know that in Africa and the Caribbean, access to resources is limited. And now that most countries are offering stimulus packages, we must focus on how those packages will be distributed and how they can impact communities. And we must make sure that no community is left behind. So cultural education and access to information is essential. And in the decade of action, the youths will be the conduit to carry this out so that we can focus on building back better all our communities globally. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Coming to speak to us next will be Miss Adideo. Yes, I got it. Michelle Annie Benjamin's Laniyi, sorry, DBL Dream Girls African Foundation. Miss Laniyi. Miss Adideo, you can unmute your mic, please.
Yeah.
Hello,
Yes.
Your Excellency, how are you?
Blessings
And
to you.
for everyone who's online, hello from Lagos, Nigeria, Center of Excellence for all of the African innovative economy, the power of Nigerian youth, powering all of the global representation and infrastructure of youth entrepreneurship all around the world and out of Africa. Today, I have for a topic the challenge of a post-COVID world and the direction, strategies, the engagements for the girl child, for resilience, but most importantly, for the rearticulation of her unique DNA and collateral of future expression in a post-COVID-19 world. The reality is what it is. And like I say, especially in a time now when the issue of vaccines, whether or not you want to take it or you don't want to take it in Africa, in Nigeria, is a very significant one, and one which determines a value proposition of risk mitigation. But like I say, and this is what I want to translate it to concerning the challenge of resilience and socioeconomic re-evaluation for the girl child, is simply this: the world has been established as a risk-defined, designed reality. If you take the vaccine, you're at risk. If you don't take it, you're also at risk. Choose your risk. The real risk mitigator, therefore, is going to be your choice, our choices, our values. Earlier on, in the first presentation by His Excellency Ismail Dodo, he was talking about the challenge of a decade of action in which all of us must repropose our positioning as actors in this new decade. I say you're not just actors, we're activators. The choices, in as much as they have a lot to do with policy, are going to be determined by personal choices, by personal value propositions that move into advocacy, and through advocacy into political referendums, system dynamics, but most importantly, your own distinctive power of choice when it comes to your entrepreneurship and your positioning in global enterprise post-COVID. So we're in a decade of action where we're called not just to be activators and actors, but to be avatars. I say avatars in the sense that you and I are going to have to determine as individuals for ourselves and for the girl child advocacy, which doesn't just refer to the girl child alone, but to the girl child as she connects with an integration of the boy child and a summitarian participation of youth from all gender reference, guided and mentored by youth like your grandparents, Your Excellency Devon. You said your father, your mother, they're still doing what they do. That's who we are as avatars, generationally, transgenerationally. We will repropose not just a paradigm shift, but a paradigm coalition. Dr. Ishmael, His Excellency, spoke about collaboration, co-creation. And I say it's co-elaboration. We've got to elaborate as we articulate. We've got to defiantly repurpose what it's going to be. As an advocate for the girl child of Africa, working with my own blueprint of the Nigerian girl child in government secondary schools here in Nigeria, the Federal Capital Territory in Dutse, I have come to a mantra that I call DREAM. D is empowering the girl child of Africa, wherever she is, in the place of her novice status and whatever experientially she has been through, in that place where she is so ready to be formed as a secondary school girl child. The first empowerment I give her is a challenge to dream. Dream your own dreams. Dream your dreams. I dare you to dream. Whatever you've gone through, whatever they call you, the denomination of the African woman is referred to as the denomination of poverty. So therefore the girl child is seen as next generation poverty. I tell them, no way. You are next generation innovation, because the power to dream and birth dreams is the power created in you by the womb in you. Girl child, you may not have had your babies here. You may have. You may have been violated. Stuff has happened to you like we have in Nigeria happening and has happened again and again. But the tragedy of circumstance does not need to become the tragedy that shapes your future circumstances. You, as a girl child, in daring to dream, can dare to repurpose, choose to challenge your own status quo. You're not just an African girl child, you're a global girl child, generationally positioned in Africa for such a time of dynamic activation as this. And with that charge I gave those girls, oh, they started dreaming. I told them your R factor is that you reach, you stretch everything in you, even as you dare to do. Reach for the stars, because the star is you. What is in you? It wasn't just called to twinkle, it was called, you were born to shine. But you know, the power of shining is the power of breaking through the force of darkness, obscurity, and everything that holds you down and holds you bound. Now, I can speak like this, not because I'm speaking motivationally, but because I'm speaking with very real facts. I made a pitch to a school of over about approximately 2,000 African girl children. In a time when in Nigeria, yes, we've been challenged with kidnapping and we are still in the place where the church is out there to bring our girls back. But I told them, you have to choose to move from here and not say it all ends here, and look for pittance and pity from nations, community, government. No, reach for the stars. You are the first star reference. And then I taught them the next thing. E, excellence is a choice you make. It's not choices that are made for you. Because the reality of where we are is that we choose to be the excellencies we desire to become. When we begin with the first steps, with our first choices, with our first value, re-proposing that we are not, even though I am and I represent my village, I am a nation, I'm a generation. These girls caught it. And so excellence became a choice, not by chance. And they started working with the skill sets that I reintroduced to them. But I'll tell you what I did with those skill sets. Let me go to the A factor. I said, when it comes to your A power girls advocacy, it's about hiring for hire. But when you aspire for hire, you cannot do it alone. No, you're gonna have to find your team and be a team builder. Don't just be a team player, be a team builder. There's a building block that you represent for the team. So build with your team, build for your team, build the dream, because the only dreams that work are the dreams that teams make work together. Aspire for higher how? Together. And in the power of together and togetherness, I tell them, girl child of Africa is a girl child anywhere representing India, all across Asia, wherever it is in Europe. Girl child is a girl child who loves the same thing that every girl child loves. She's got her colors, she's got her wings, she's got her power. More is who you are, girl child. And that is what I told them. Now, why do I do this? I
Sorry,
don't just
excuse me. Sorry. You have 1 minute remaining.
1 minute left. Okay, so the wrap up is simply this. In a decade of action, let's become the avatars. Not just actors and activators, but let us choose what our demographic is going to be, like I did, and you make it happen. My hashtag for them was from Dutse, an unknown location somewhere in Africa, in Nigeria, the Federal Capital Territory, to the UN. And they are going to the UN. Thank you. Hashtag choose to challenge. I choose to challenge every status quo that says that the African girl child is a denominator of poverty. No, she's a denomination of change, innovation, and I dare say, moving from the donation and contribution of sanitary pads, let's give the African girl child iPads. Put it in her hand, because her feminine hygiene will be taken care of by her feminine mentors, mothers, and translators of opportunity in such a time post-COVID as this. Thank you. My name is DBL, Dio Benjamin Lani, Executive MD, Doxa Digital Nigeria, and Initiator CEO, Dream Girls Africa. I'm the African mama.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Moving on, our next speaker will be His Highness Prince Lulenglo Midluli. I think I pronounced it correctly. Vice President for Iswani National Youth Cooperatives Alliances. His Highness.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for the introduction. It's Lungelo, but I guess we'll get it right. We're teaching each other from the Kingdom of Eswatini. Unfortunately, I wish I could share my picture, but I'm still at work and this I'm using an old machine. But with that said, I think let me not waste any time and get into my short presentation about who I am and the organizations, plural, that I represent. Just continue. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you so much. So here, as I was introduced, here in the Kingdom of Swaziland, I am the vice president of two organizations. The one that has been mentioned here is the Eswatini Youth Cooperative Alliance, which is the apex body for all youth cooperatives in the Kingdom of Eswatini. And as ours is to coordinate activities to make a better environment for youth in business, in particular cooperatives. On that, I also sit on a federation body which makes up of three apexes, which is the one I've just explained. There's the apex for savings and credits, and the apex for what do you call this thing, for farmers association. So that's the one apex. I will come back to everything just now. And the other board I sit on is also another apex, which is the Youth Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Eswatini. I also hold the position of vice president on that one as well. So just before I get any further, for me, since even before I sit on this board, since probably 2016, because I'm also an entrepreneur, I've made it my mission to choose a struggle or a fight that I can contribute as a young person. And my question has always been to the powers that be, what's the plan for young people in our country? How are they getting us from being SMEs to corporations or industrialists? So through that mission has not changed for me, because in the country that I come from, we have a 64% youth unemployment rate, and the country is 75% under the age of 24. We also only have, if I'm not mistaken, 43% high school finish rate. So we have a large population of young people sitting at home, not being able to find a way for themselves. And as explained, jobs are difficult to come by. So through the Youth Cooperative Alliance, what we've done is that there are already some young people who have formed, because we believe that our individual efforts make a bigger effort because obviously we young people we don't have any resources. So the only resource we have is ourselves. So ours is to try help the ones that are already formed so they can get access to training, get access to funding and markets as well. And then also to encourage the rest of the youth in the country to form their own organizations and come to us so that we can help them capacitate them to move from an idea all the way to innovation or commercialization of the idea. Um, we've been lucky enough to get off the ground and start working. Last year we had the first in the country in Indaba or a conference where as young people we came together to discuss the problems that we are now faced with. So to say, this was the first one in the country where young people organize themselves, find their own funding, and host it without any external adults involved. So we are very proud of that. Um, Out of that, then we have come with a resolution where we have a 3-year strategic plan. And then our strategic plan is in the first year, we want to go out, continue spreading the message of cooperate such that more people can join. Um, and we can increase our membership because obviously with numbers, then international donors and help is much easier to come by. And even locally from government, the question they always ask us is, where are these young people? Young people are not organized and such. So we're trying to break that barrier such that we can get help and help each other out as young people. Um, so that's the first year is to coordinate, try get more people to join our ranks. And then in the second year is to push training, which will be next year. So getting people business training, getting people cooperative training such that they know about um, what do we call this thing? Compliance and good business ethics. Because I and also all of us believe as young people, it's important for us not to just start businesses, but to start sustainable businesses and make sure that we do things right. Because most of the time, our ethics and also our business processes are probably under par. So we've got a lot of passion, but don't have the know-how. So it's a very important part is to capacitate these young people with the right skills to have successful businesses. And then in the third year is to make sure that these people get to market and also to consolidate our efforts to see how that's going. Most of our youth are involved in farming because of the conditions in Eswatini, but we are also trying to get young people in different spheres to join. My cooperative in particular, ours is to deal with food security, renewable energy, and business consultancy. So we do have different programs and different ideas. Another cooperative is about 20 young people, um, excuse me, 20 young activists, all of them with different agendas. One is an HIV activist. Um, I'm just going to say that one from the top, just in the interest of time. But basically, it's to find a way for them to continue being activists while being able to take care of themselves. Is a model that we're trying to push and bring to the fold for them and other young people coming with different ideas. Also, there's a whole lot of young people who are actually working but are interested in getting a second income. So even that is an idea that we're trying to push through the young people of Eswatini to say, listen, why don't you find other young people that are sitting at home with human resource to work when you can help with your resource in terms of expertise if you're marketers or accountants and such, and you've also got resources in terms of access to funding through the banks and what other avenues. Also through the Youth Cooperative Alliance, what we have going on right now is the Go Green campaign, where we have a 10,000 trees youth challenge. Currently, we've planted about just under 2,000 trees. This for us is a platform to accommodate two factors. One is to be able to share the message of cooperatives to the rest of the country through a platform, but also to give back to our community, which if you know anything about cooperatives, it's one of the 7 principles. Um, so that I don't exhaust my time, I just want to talk a little bit more about the Youth Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And that one, we're an apex body that umbrellas all youth in any type of business. And in that forum, our main activity is to lobby for a conducive environment through all our major stakeholders. So currently, right now, what we've done is that we have a constitution that has been developed over the last 3 years. And in the last year, as a board, we're able through using different stakeholders and a consultant, develop a 3-year strategic plan. So right now, we're actually currently embarking on sensitizing the whole of the country to participate by reading through the Constitution and reading through the 3-year plan and then responding such that it's validated by the actual stakeholder, the young people. Now this again will also allow us to be able to go to parliaments, to ministers and such, to say these are the young people, 10,000 or 30,000 or even more young people have signed this petition and they would like this. Personally, for me, the greatest goal I wish I could um, achieve through this platform is to get maybe something like 30% of all government procurement tenders to be given to businesses of people under the age of um, what you call this thing of 35. I think this will go a long way in terms of developing the nation and young entrepreneurs. A lot of speakers have spoken a lot on the same issues, and basically, I believe it's about legacy and it's about the now. So for us as young people, we need to start taking the stand and stop waiting for someone else to change our fortunes, and um, also understanding the limitations of older people that they don't see the world the way we see it. We are now more in touch with the new way of working, especially with the fourth industrial revolution, which will help us access more of the world. So with little, you can scale and access more people. So with that said, I believe the SDGs that we are touching on very strongly is SDG number 1, no poverty, SDG number 8, decent work and economic growth. As I said, there's not much work, so we need to create our own work in our country. SDG 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure. These are the things that I think I've spoken to in length, and trying to also teach the young people of Eswatini that this is how we need to change our mindsets and our brains to see further than just our shows. And also number 10, the reduction of inequality. For me and for both organizations that I'm on, this is a very important factor. Not only are we disproportionately left out as young people in economic decision making or economy as a whole, but also to we are sensitive to the girl child coming from a disadvantaged viewpoint where a girl is not supposed to go to
Excuse me,
school, a
Prince.
girl is not supposed to be this and that. Um,
Prince, you
with the
have
youth chamber,
for 1 minute remaining.
thank you so much. With with youth chamber, our president is female, and in almost all of our boards and stuff, we always make sure we have women representative. We have something called an exchange program for the youth cooperative alliance. We have an exchange program between Swaziland, or rather Eswatini, Lesotho, and Botswana. And there, the president is from Eswatini, and she is also female. And lastly, but not least, is climate SDG number 13, climate action, which we are trying to do by planting trees and teaching young people and the country as a whole about what it is to reverse climate change. Thank you so much, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, His Highness. Thank you. Speaking to us next would be His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Kester Dean, Department of Youth and Arts, International Consulting Cabinet, WOLMAI, International Consulting Cabinet. Ambassador Dr. Dean, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bannister. An excellent job on moderating this auspicious occasion. Protocols observed, sinuses, fellow ambassadors, and distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for the opportunity of having me here. My name is Ambassador Kester Mortimer Dean, in the Department of Youth and Arts, International Consulting Cabinet of WOLMAI. And give me great honor to be here to share with you on this special day. First, as a believer in the things of God and in Christ as a whole, it's only fitting that I start off by reminding us why we're here. The whole notion of the prevention of COVID. COVID is here, and our fight is to prevent the virus from spreading farther. We ourselves protecting ourselves so that we will not contract this deadly, in some instance, virus, and it more tax person with underlying health conditions. And we see as time progresses, other areas of human life is being affected by this virus that becomes a pandemic worldwide. I must direct our attention to Ecclesiastes chapter 3. It says, there is a time for everything and a season for every activity under heaven. We could go on from verse 2, a time to be born, a time to die. As it is a time where where we're in COVID, and we have to find solutions to save ourselves, our families, and friends, wherever they may be across the world. My pick today from all the discussions from our previous speakers, which I'm very much impressed and empowered by, I choose to talk about the social change, social aspect of COVID-19. And I want to begin with social, which deals with, there is a time for everything that I've just mentioned. And I would like to also quote from Deepak Chopra. He says, all great changes are preceded by chaos. We have seen over a year, thereabout, as long as COVID impacted this world. Chaos. Airports shut down, people losing their jobs, millions of lives lost because of COVID. And so if you ask me, it's very much chaotic worldwide in its various forms. But we are here today, we're alive, and we're trying our utmost to make sure that we stay clear of this pandemic. And so social changes, one of the important aspects of social change is wearing a mask. Yes, wearing a mask. We are in our own private space, so it's clear to, take the mask off and everything. But when we venture out of our homes or wherever our business or office is, we put that on. Yeah, and that is a way of protecting ourselves from contracting this virus, because it's spread by these droplets coming out of your mouth, but you sneezing or coughing and all of these different things. So the safest way to go is by putting on the mask. So if you cough, everything trapped in here. If you speak, preventing the droplets from coming out of your mouth is trapped in here. So one of the social change is by wearing masks that we're not accustomed to. In a time going forward, wearing masks was criminal. The bank put up signs, no masks, no caps, no this, no that. Today, the same banks, they are putting up wear no entry without a mask. So time has definitely changed because of COVID. So it's very much essential that we wear what? Our mask, okay? Social distancing, something that we're not accustomed to. This is the fight amongst us as human beings. We are accustomed, when we reach, whether it's family or a close friend or some associate, we hug, we high five, we pound, and all of these different things, which means that it's contact, close contact with one another. COVID, however, has caused us to distance ourselves from what we have accustomed to do it, which is the hug, the palm, the high five. We do elbow. If you ask me, elbow is a form of contact. So that in its sense, in itself is dangerous. So it's saying social distancing. That is another aspect of it. How it affects us, how COVID affects you and I. Accepting the change, that's a big one, right? The change that we're not accustomed to. We're accustomed to hugging one another. COVID has caused us not to hug one another. So we are uncomfortable with that. Secondly, don't sweat about things that you can't change. I mean, COVID is here. The question should be, what can I do to help the situation, to help prevent COVID from spreading further? That should be the big question, right? Embrace the change. We have to embrace COVID is here. We have to work with it, because there's nothing we can do. There's vaccine and all these different things that is being presented to us. But still, COVID is present, and we have to do all that we can to protect ourselves first and foremost, protect our loved ones, protect our friends, and to the world at large, okay? Coping with the change. This is another big one. How are you coping with the change? Identify what areas of my life the change affects. Identify. One, let's make a little bit demonstration here. If you got a white paper, just draw a line. Draw a line down the middle. One, you draw the line on the page. On the right side of the page, you ask yourself what you currently do, what you do right now. In terms of work, you're at home, what are you doing right now? On the left side of the page, however, you ask, write what you have to do because of COVID. What do you have to do because of COVID? These are the two questions we need to ask ourselves. One, write what you currently do. Secondly, write what you have to do because of this pandemic upon us. Third but not last, ways to cope. Ways to cope with COVID. All right, let's do a little exercise. Meditation. For all morning since we started, we've been sitting, some of us standing, however we position ourselves. Let's take do a little demonstration. Take a deep breath through your nose and hold it for 4, 3, 2, 1. Now let us do that again, and you exhale through your mouth. You inhale with your nose. 4, 3, 2, 1, and you exhale through your mouth. Now you can do that again. Now we will do this, and this is what it is. Adequate sleep is very much important. Some of us need 6 to 8 hours. Some need 12, some need a whole day. But one of the important factors of this, y'all, we need to sleep. You stress too much. You can't change, but you could work with what is already at hand and make a difference. And this is where I want to say thank you for my little demonstration and advice with regards to this pandemic and how we all could help with the life that we have, the platform that we have, and make a difference to impact the lives of our young people and our seniors, our government, our communities, our villages, our countries, our towns, and our nation as a whole. On this note, I would like to say thank you very much. I hail from Guyana, South America, and where we are trying our utmost to cope with COVID. Thank you, and may God bless you, and I do hope that this little demonstration would have helped in some way or the other. It's an honor and a privilege. God bless.
Thank you very much, His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Dean. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm putting out a bolo. I'm looking for Miss Amaka.
You just stepped out. An emergency. Can do the
Okay.
next?
All right, no problem. Okay. Okay, so thank you very much to those speakers. Now we'll be moving on to the next section, which is Youth Thriving and Prospering for the Decade of Action. This basically is surrounded around SDG 1, 2, 3, 8, 10, 12, 18, 16, 17. Challenges and strengths we'll be looking at here. So coming to speak to us will be Evan Anderson, graduate student from the Business Management CUNY USA Forensic Consultant Intern. Evan, you have exactly 4 minutes, so please go ahead now.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I would like to acknowledge Dr. Ada Okika and the organizers of this event. Thank you for this opportunity. According to the UN World Youth Report of 2020, estimates indicate that there are 1.2 billion young people aged 15 to 24 years, accounting for 16% of the global population. The overwhelming majority live in developing countries where they make up a large proportion of the population. The UN 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development offers an unprecedented opportunity to strengthen relationships between development agents such as young people, the private sector, and policymakers to produce effective and innovative solutions. The active engagement of youth in sustainable development efforts is central to achieving these goals by the target date. In September 2015, The 2030 Agenda was formally adopted along with 17 Sustainable Development Goals and targets. Although some measure of success has been achieved with less than 9 years to go, youths are still facing myriads of challenges. One of the major challenges facing youth today is unemployment. This has adversely affected youth empowerment. Without meaningful employment, many youths will not be able to realize their full potential. During the pandemic, traditional job creation was not enough to resolve the long-standing youth employment crisis, and the COVID-19 pandemic has only exacerbated the situation. The job market has become even more challenging now, and the post-crisis is yet to be decided. But we believe that youth can experience a resilient recovery from COVID-19. To address the unemployment issue, many young people across the globe have taken action and developed their own solutions through social entrepreneurship. Micro, small, and medium enterprises account for the largest share of jobs in some economies. Youth have used the opportunity to create their own form of employment. On a broader societal level, it involves inclusion, trust, solidarity, reciprocity, and cohesion. Social entrepreneurship faces challenges. Some major barriers include lack of access to funding, technical support, networks, and markets. Other obstacles are age-related. For example, the age to own real property in order to secure a loan. Discrimination is another challenge. It disproportionately impacts certain groups because of stereotyping, for example, young women, young migrants, rural versus urban youths, indigenous youths, and youths with disabilities. Education, partnerships, collaboration, dialogue, and change in policies are key to addressing some of these challenges. In most regions, poverty still persists. In the Asia Pacific region alone, for example, 85 million youth live in extreme poverty. Ending poverty is a particularly pertinent youth issue, as those aged 15 to 24 are most likely to be among the working poor. With COVID-19, millions of youths globally are not able to abide by established health-related protocols regarding social distancing, frequent hand washing, etc., due to their living condition and lack access to water. We need active participation from all sectors of society and collaborative health. Local governments, the international community, and partnering stakeholders can help to remedy the situation. And this will be an important means of empowering youth. To promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, we must work towards inclusive youth participation and leadership, while focusing on the marginalized groups of youth, such as young women, youth with disabilities, indigenous youth, and migrant youth. In addition to empowerment strategies cited earlier, resilient recovery from COVID-19 should include strong support for and the strengthening of youth-led organizations and networks, because they contribute to the development of civic leadership skills among young people. Young people can create a dynamic force of political change and social transformation when they are included in decision process making. In my conclusion, with less than 9 years left, the SDG 2030 UN Agenda for Sustainable Development is currently off target from being realized within the specified time frame. COVID-19 has adversely affected what was accomplished since 2015, but we believe that a resilient recovery from the pandemic can be achieved. The active engagement of youth in sustainable development efforts is central to achieving sustainable, inclusive, and stable societies by the target date. In general, youths want to and are already contributing to the resilience of their communities, proposing innovative solutions, driving social progress, and inspiring political change. When they are empowered with the knowledge of their rights and equipped with leadership skills, they can drive change in their communities and countries, and many have been successful in doing so. Provided with the necessary skills and opportunities needed to reach their potential, young people can be a driving force for supporting development and contributing to peace and security. Youth-led organizations need to be encouraged and empowered to participate in translating the 2030 Agenda into local, national, and regional policy. They play a specific role in the implementation, monitoring, and review of the agenda, as well as in holding governments accountable. With political commitment and adequate resources, young people can make the most effective transformation of the world into a better place for all, even after COVID-19, and all by promoting youth economic, social, and environmental dimensions of sustainable development for the decade of action. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Evan. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Do we have Pauline You'd get a global country coordinator for Zimbabwe. Ms. Pauline? Okay, doesn't seem, maybe she might have slipped out. Okay, we'll have a cultural presentation by one of our Youth Get a Global representative locations. So Dr. Ada Okika. Okay, I think we might have been having some difficulties in terms of showing the video. Okay. Nevertheless, let me take this opportunity and time to say thank you very much to everyone for speaking to us today. Thank you very much to Ishmael Dudu, who is the policy advisor to the Office of the UN Secretary General, special advisor for the Sahel UNHQ TRS New York, as well as His Excellency Ambassador Usman Sarki, the former Deputy Permanent Representative of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to the United Nations, Ms. Tembitsil Mahua, Dr. Anuku, the Director General for the Academy of Management Science and Conveer, Youth in Management Science in Africa, as well as Sufyan Christian, who is the founder for Educate First, England, UK, and Convener Alternate Schools for Africa program, Ms. Ngubisi, who is Mr. Ngubisi, sorry, Mr. For the We Solve Forex Foundation South Africa, Ambassador Dr. Monica Sanchez, the president for Ms. CARICOM Foundation International Visionary Building Back Better, Ms. Adideo Michael Annie Benjamin's Lanini, who is the Dream Girls African Foundation, His Highness Prince Longilo, Vice President Eastwani National Youth Cooperatives Alliance, as well as His Excellency Dr. Kestadine and Mr. Evan Anderson. Thank you very much to all of you for setting the pace for us here today in this very first segment of our forum, of our meeting here today. And moving forward, you will be hearing from youths from other countries, representing other countries, who will come and speak to us and enlighten us on the work of the country, how they view the country's advancement, the country's moving forward, the productivity, the challenges the countries might be faced, and some of them might even give us solutions that the country can be able to use to move forward. I know many of us, we tend to sometimes we tend to think that, well, a forum like this, what can it do? I can say a few words, but then yet still the government might not take it from me. You'd be surprised to know you might say something and your government or another government would hear it and see the potential in it and decide to run with it. So, ladies and gentlemen, it has been my honor. It has been a pleasure to serve you this morning, to be your host, to be your moderator for this very first segment. And my name is His Excellency Dr. Devon Bannister. It's been a pleasure, and I will now be bidding farewell. I will be handing you over to Prince Dr. Osita, who is the chairman for the Youth Gather Global Governing Council. He will come and take us into the second session, which you will be hearing about the Model UN General Assembly open debate for our youths. Dr. Osita, over to you, sir.
Thank you so very much, my friend and brother, Dr. Devon Bannister, Chair, Department of Youth and Arts, the World International Consulting Cabinet, and also the Pro-Chancellor for the CK University and Seminary. Thank you so much for wonderful work you've done today. Youth Gather Global owes you the world, and you've been part of us since the beginning. Thank you so very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to look at what the Youth Gather Global Youth Forum is all about for the ECOSOC Youth Forum. Now, the Model UN Youth Gather Global General Assembly Open Debate, incorporating the 2021 ECOSOC Youth Forum mock session presentation from our coordinators, will happen now. But I'm going to invite Dr. Ada Okika, the Chancellor for Youth Gather Global, to give a reflection on the open debate. Dr. Ada.
1 of every 6 young people lost their job. And youth mental health. Dear young people, it is my pleasure to greet all those gathered for the 10th anniversary of the ECOSOC Youth Forum. This forum has evolved to become the UN's foremost platform for tackling the many pressing challenges that young people face today.
At the opening section,
those challenges are indeed those many and pressing. I'm immensely saddened by what COVID-19 has done to the world's young people. Some 1.5 billion students have had their education disrupted. As many as 20 million girls may not return to learning when the pandemic is over. 1 of every 6 young people lost their job. And youth mental health has worsened considerably. These impacts are exacerbating the challenges that young people confronted before the pandemic hit. Because of protracted conflicts and displacement, millions of young people are seeing their youth disappear before their eyes. Because of paternalistic attitudes and the narrowing of civil space, young people are often denied a role in shaping their societies. And because of the climate emergency, young people are inheriting a world facing a triple planetary crisis: climate disruption, collapsing biodiversity, and pollution of air, land, and water that kills millions every year. In this context, we should not be surprised that both online and in the streets, young people have been expressing their impatience with the pace of change, their alarm at the war on nature, and their frustration with injustice and poor governance. To ensure that these expressions of political action help deliver the future envisaged by the Sustainable Development Goals, we need to listen and rebuild trust. We need meaningful opportunities for youth engagement in governance systems, in democratic processes, in peace building and peace negotiations. Most of all, we need results, tangible improvements in areas such as education, employment, gender equality, environmental protection, and digital connectivity through a just, inclusive, green, and sustainable recovery. The UN's first ever system-wide youth strategy, Youth 2030, is our commitment to strengthen our work with and for young people. The first implementation report shows steady progress by our country teams, by individual UN entities, and in key areas such as youth, peace, and security. We are also seeing a surge in youth engagement, including through the Youth Advisory Group on Climate Change and the work of my envoy on youth. Yet, there is much more to do, not least in terms of reaching young people of all backgrounds and in all contexts, and improving how we work not just for, but with young people. The role of young people and the rights of future generations will be at the core of my forthcoming report to the member states on charting our common agenda. Youth leaders are involved in the process, and I'm listening closely to your ideas and suggestions. The world needs to move beyond platitudes about young people. We need you to continue showing the way on critical issues such as racial justice and gender equality. And we need you to help us make peace with nature and forge a transition that takes us beyond fossil fuels into a world of renewable energy and net zero emissions. Thank you for your commitment to the ideals and objectives of the United Nations. I wish you all a successful Youth Forum.
I would now like to invite the United Nations Secretary General's Envoy on Youth, Ms. Jayatma Vikramanayake, to make a statement. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, fellow young people. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. Thank you for taking time to join us. Welcome to the 10th anniversary of the ECOSOC Youth Forum. As a co-organizer of this forum, I'm so excited to welcome all of you virtually to the United Nations. Together, all of us here today are making history. It's incredibly inspiring to know that over 11,000 young people are joining us from all over the world, making this year's ECOSOC Youth Forum the largest gathering of young people at the UN ever. It is my hope that this milestone convening will serve as an example for the UN to continue increasingly welcoming young people's contributions, both virtually and in person, in the years to come. Whether you're joining from New York, Cairo, Cape Town, or Colombo, like me, we are gathered together here today to recognize the vital role of young people as agents of change and a driving force in the decade of action to deliver on the Sustainable Development Goals. This is an opportunity to celebrate young people's resilience, drive, creativity, and leadership in building a more sustainable, just, fair and inclusive world for all of us as envisioned in the 2030 Agenda. But we are also here to shine a light on situations where young people are most often being left behind, excluded and marginalized. While this year's Youth Forum is the most inclusive it has ever been, I cannot help but think about the millions of young people who cannot join us here virtually today due to lack of digital connectivity around the world. That is why I am counting on everyone's leadership and support to extend this privilege you are enjoying here today to amplify the voices and concerns of all young people in all their diversity. Over the past decade, the ECOSOC Youth Forum has become a pivotal and unique platform that brings member states, young people, representatives of youth-led and youth-focused organizations and other stakeholders to promote meaningful youth engagement in the implementation and follow-up and review of the Sustainable Development Goals at the global, regional, and national levels. In this spirit, let's not forget that we are here to hold decision makers accountable for their promises, which will continue to impact generations for years to come, and to advocate for more young people to be represented where decisions are being made. With that in mind, I'm especially encouraged that over 60 high-level government officials, including head of state, vice presidents, ministers, will be joining us as a part of this intergenerational dialogue over the next 2 days. I hope this commitment inspires others and continues far beyond this year's Youth Forum. Putting diverse voices around the table is the only way to ensure we do not repeat or continue to perpetuate past mistakes. Dear friends, being young has always had its set of challenges. However, over 1.8 billion young people today face issues that no other generation has encountered. As we mark World Health Day today, it's imperative to also reflect on the immense impact the COVID-19 pandemic has had on young people around the world. 1 in 8 young people do not have access to education, the majority of whom are girls. 1 in 6 young people lost their jobs during the pandemic. Access to sexual and reproductive health and rights has decreased, leading to an increase in unwanted pregnancies and an additional 10 million girls at risk of child marriages. Mental health issues among young people are on the rise. At the same time, the ongoing climate crisis, conflicts, and systems of inequality continue to pose a threat to young people's lives and futures, making them disproportionately vulnerable to both short-term and long-term impacts of these multifaceted crises. Yet, it would be a mistake to think that young people have been passively waiting for others to grant them space and grant them opportunities to take leadership and create positive change. On the contrary, young people have been showcasing that they are not only the most resilient, but also the most resourceful during a time of crisis. From volunteering in the front lines of the health response to fighting disinformation online during the COVID-19 pandemic, young people have shown all of us that they hold the answers to the problems facing their communities. They have shown us leadership, courage, and grit that we sometimes fail to see in our elected political leaders. What's remarkable in this is that it's often those who are furthest left behind, including the most stigmatized and the most discriminated, who take charge to realize their rights and those of others. The leadership and resilience of young women and girls, indigenous youth, LGBTIQ young people living with disabilities, young refugees, young migrants reinforce this reality to us every single day this past year and before. Over the past year alone, we have seen young people around the world take it to the streets and dominate online spaces, demanding for climate action, racial equality, gender equality, democracy, and the respect of fundamental freedoms and human rights. And here, I want to take a moment to remember and honor the brave young people who have been violated or lost their lives in the process. I hope that this forum gives an opportunity to institutions, particularly governments, to adapt their approaches to protect and safeguard young people who are demanding for their rights and the rights of others instead of seeing them as a threat. As much as I consider every young person taking even the smallest action a superhero, despite their resilience and bravery, young people cannot save the world on their own. They need allies who will support them in translating their words into action. Wherever they are doing their activism, in villages, in favelas, in refugee camps, cities, or islands, young people need political support. They need platforms for intergenerational dialogue. They need financial and non-financial resources to amplify their work and ensure that their peers are not left behind. Let's not forget that last year, during the monumental UN 75 Global Dialogues, young people were the most optimistic group when it came to the future of the United Nations and multilateralism, despite being disproportionately affected by the long-term impacts of the current global crises. But they have also called for a more inclusive United Nations. So let's co-create that inclusive future together across generations. For us at the UN, we are already having the tool to do this. In 2018, the Secretary General launched the first ever UN system-wide youth strategy, Youth 2030, to serve as a framework for the UN and partners to come together to work with and for young people. The accelerated implementation of this strategy will be critical to ensure we are able to deliver on this inclusive common vision for a sustainable, just and fair future. The launch of the first ever Youth 2030 Progress Report today will be a milestone moment on this journey. Dear colleagues, we are at a crossroads. Despite the hardships of the past year, we have an unprecedented opportunity to recover better together, reimagine the status quo, and build a new normal based on values of justice, values of equality, values of intersectionality, and values of sustainability, with young people at the front and center. I look forward to the discussions to come, and I wish all of you a productive forum. Thank you.
Thank you. That was the opening section this morning at the United Nations to mark the 2021 ECOSOC Forum and the 10th anniversary. We were able to hear from the Secretary General of United Nations and the Secretary General Youth Envoy speaking, and youth at the crossroads. So we have been able to hear from distinguished speakers addressing the cause of youth and calling on youth to be more creative, innovative, and get to participation, especially with the Decade of Action. This section is taking us to hearing from the youth proper, how they feel, what they have seen, and what they want to be changed. So in the next section of open debate, we have youth representing various countries to speak on their minds, how they feel, what's going on in the country's development with respect to youth and youth participation, and how they want to move forward from their voices. So I hand over the section to the chair of Youth Together Global, Prince Dr. Osita Nyemeka.
Thank you very much, Madam Chancellor, Dr. Adaokika. I am very happy that today it's happening, and thank you for sharing with us the reflection on the open debate. The opening session this morning has shown that the UN is working with the youth for the Decade of Action. And now for us to listen to our young people from all over the world representing different countries, I want to introduce these very important young men and women. I am very proud of them. I'm proud to be working with them. And we're going to have them represent Taiwan, Egypt, South Africa, Ethiopia, Ghana, Guyana, Antigua and Barbuda, United Kingdom, Nigeria, and Libya. So I will invite these youth, Ibrahim Abubakar Mohammed, representing Taiwan, Sylvia Achiambo Wandera, representing Egypt, Cornelis Chimwani, representing South Africa, Lota Agulue, representing Ethiopia, Emmanuel Akta Badu, representing Ghana, Harrison Ford, representing Guyana, Melisha Sinclair Harris, representing Antigua, Shaniza Pesor, representing UK, Ben Janko, representing Nigeria, and Tobias Nairoki, representing Libya. Can you please join us, and then we'll take you one after the other to give us your opinion on development for the countries you represent. Please acknowledge your presence.
I think you call them one country after the other.
Yes, yeah, they
indicate their presence. Yes.
Okay, it's
yes.
Okay, very quickly.
The person represents
Ibrahim Abubakar.
Yeah, Dr.
Taiwan. Is Ibrahim here? Abubakar Mohammed. Okay. It's Sylvia Giambo Wandera here, Egypt. Sylvia? Sylvia, are you here? I saw Cornelis Chimwani, South Africa. Cornelis, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm here.
Luta, are you here?
Yes.
Yes, welcome, Luta. Very good. What about Emmanuel Atta Badu, Ghana? Emmanuel Badu, are you here? Okay, Harrison Ford, Guyana. Harrison Ford, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, brilliant. Welcome. Next, Melissa Sinclair Harris, Antigua. Are you here, Melissa?
Yes, it's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, brilliant. Welcome, Melissa. Welcome. Now, next we'll have Shaniza Prasad.
Shaniza representing Venezuela.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But I got UK here. I was wondering why she took from. Shaniza, you're here, right? Shaniza, are you here?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay, brilliant. And then for Nigeria, Ben Jemko. Ben, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, brilliant. And now, yes, I have seen Tobias Naruki for Libya. Welcome.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Yes, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We need you to.
Dr. Star, a minute, please.
Yes,
please. We want to see representative of the country on your name. So remove your personal names, please. Just want to have a representative because you are representing a nation. So you can't have two names.
We have
all on the country you are representing, not your name. Okay, so please, if you include your personal name, can you remove it from the representative? Thank you. You're also on Facebook, so you are being watched on Facebook as well.
I think only a handful of them, who have their names there. Every other person here has a country he or she represents. Okay, are we ready? I am going to have to invite you one after the other. And I will start with the country, Taiwan. It's the Taiwan representative here, the rep for Taiwan. Okay. Let's hold on. Let's hold on Taiwan and go to Egypt. Where is it, the representative for Egypt? I thought she answered when I called first, Sylvia at Giambo Wandera. Okay, let's go to South Africa. My friend Cornelis, you take the floor. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair, Dr. Sita, the chair of the YGG, the Youth Together Global. Thank you, Dr. Ada, for this great opportunity for me to express my mind on behalf of the South Africans youth in this very great event of the ECOSOC Youth Forum. I would like to say that the youth, that we build a greater future that holds us culpable for its development and for its well-being, to be a place that everyone wishes to be, by establishing and implementing the ideas that are put in place by our leaders to ensure that we follow and implement them. I will say that This time we are much challenged because the youth, I think we had been forgotten. And it is now a privilege that we have an opportunity to express our minds to the nation, to the whole world. As the people of South Africa, it was known that Africa is a state that lacks ability to think, ability to implement, but now we are rising to the world class level. You remember in 2010, when there was World Cup held in South Africa, it was an opportunity for us to show that we have that power, we have that ability to stand for ourselves, to stand and compete worldwide. As youth, it was an opportunity for us to see that we have talents and to nurture talents that can give us an opportunity for us to make our future a better place. This time we are challenged because we are in a period of resilience and recovering from COVID-19. This is a pandemic that hit all of us, all of the world, and South Africa is no exception. And we are still recovering. We are still asking everyone to put in mind that we, the youth, are the generation and needs to be protected. And standing together, we need to ensure that we implement COVID-19 regulations by not taking into a joke any of the measures put in place. I would like us to implement the SDGs that are giving us a vision 2030, that we are now at a 10th year of implementation. And we need to come on board. We need to be on the table at the world center, that is the United Nations. And given an opportunity, we need to be open-minded to various opportunities that come our way. It is with great appeal that I make to my fellow youth that wherever we are given opportunity, we need to try. You know, sometimes we have visionary youths, but that ability to come on board a way for you to problem. When you talk about entrepreneurship, you find out that the use of the ideas, you can find a youth as an ability to build up a supermarket. In fact, someone is a walking supermarket himself or herself, but that opportunity does not get realized because the youth is diminished, because there is no funds. But I want to tell you that it is not the funds that come first. It is the idea that develops the funds. So you build up the idea, bring it on board, find someone and the donors who can help us. And I'm appealing to the YGG Global. It is my humble request that you implement this great ability of the youth and their talents by creating somewhere where you fund the youth with their talents and their ideas to build the world. When I talk about education, we understand is the backbone of every individual, as
South
well
Africa,
as every...
you have just 1 minute to go. South Africa, 1 more minute.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair, for the reminder. I will say that when we talk about education, you find out that it is the youth that are being given the opportunity to go to school. But at this particular time of COVID-19, that the same people who have been hit so thoroughly. And I appeal that the government should give us that opportunity for us, even if there is the girl child. Let me stress about the girl child. If there is any girl child who has been unable to stay at home because they got pregnant and they have not gone back to school, they should be given that opportunity to test and realize their dreams by going back to school and being given the opportunity and stop this discrimination.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you, South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Please, let's be mindful of our time. We've been here for quite some time now. We want to wrap this up in good time, but make your points clearly and succinctly. Let's take the next speaker. I am not sure if our Taiwanese is here or our Egyptian is here for now. So let's go to Ethiopia. I want to call on the representative for Ethiopia to please take the floor. Ethiopia.
Hi. First, I'd like to talk about Ethiopia and what environmental initiative they've been doing. So, launched in 2019, the Green Legacy Initiative aims to combat environmental degradation and build resilience and transition into a greener society. The Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Abiy Ahmed, had been in charge of this initiative. The nation had lost nearly 97% of its native forests due to growing population and increased need for land and for food production. To combat this environmental degradation, Ethiopia committed to restoring 15 million hectares of deforested land by 2025. Through the Green Legacy, the Ethiopian government hopes to plant 20 billion trees over the next 4 years. And even during the pandemic, the Prime Minister has urged all Ethiopians to join the planting challenge, while also adhering to increased safety precautions, social distancing, and other preventative COVID-19 measures. Ethiopians are encouraged to plant their print at an individual and family level. The funding for this initiative had been upwards to $117 million as a conservative estimate, but has doubled due to costs from planting trees in urban areas. With this, restoring natural tree cover and working with local women's groups and landless youths to plant trees in a way that benefits their communities, these trees restore watersheds to keep rivers flowing and regenerate soils so they can become more productive again. This helps remove a barrier to youth economic empowerment in sub-Saharan Africa. Efforts like the Green Legacy Initiative increases productivity and bolster climate adaptation across places like Ethiopia. Restoring land like this gives the Ethiopian government more land to distribute, with land scarcity being a very real problem, and giving youth the ability to maximize the use of small land plots as a source of income using agriculture. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ethiopia. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to have to invite the next country representative, Ghana, Emmanuel Badu, representing Ghana. Please take the floor and talk to us about the old Gold Coast. Emmanuel. Emmanuel, are you there? Emmanuel? Okay, let's get to the next country. When we find this, our friends, we call them back. Guyana, Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford for Guyana. Harrison.
Thank you, sir. Good
Welcome.
morning, good afternoon, good
Yeah.
evening
Please
to
use the
everyone
floor.
on here. Thank you. All right, so as you've heard, my name is Harrison Ford, and I'm representing the nation of Guyana. And just to share a little bit on how has this pandemic affected our youth in Guyana. One of the very first concerns that I've had, and I know a lot of youth have had in Guyana, is really protection, and not just protection against the virus, but just in general protection for our young people, for our youth. Um, and more so protection from abuse. Because one of the very first things that happened is that the schools had to shut down. So that means that all of our students had to be at home. And unfortunately, we do have those youth that at home that are being abused at home, and just being able to know that we can provide some method of protection for them, because even though the schools were shut down, crimes and abuse did not shut down. That was still happening. It was still rising. And then our youth have become more vulnerable to abuse, especially for those that are being abused in their own homes. And the other side of that coin is those youths that are not being abused at home. There is a percentage of them that are probably not getting the attention they need at home or the support that they need at home. So what that causes them to do is to go outside of the home to look for that attention and that support system. And the unfortunate thing with that is that a lot of them are not getting the genuine approach that they would need. So they also are putting themselves at risk with connecting with people that are outside, people that they probably don't know, that can also lead to some form of abuse. So that leads to my next question, which would have been, how do we build a future that will be engaging for our youth, being that most of everything is virtual, being that we need to use more technology, we need to get familiar with the way technology is advancing, and allow our youths to dream beyond what they've been seeing from their parents and their grandparents, being able to dream bigger than just following in the steps of our parents, because there's a lot more creativity that we're able to tap into. There's a lot more opportunities that are being that we're faced with because of technology. So do we have those facilities equipped with the most advanced technologies that we need to do these research, to allow our young people to dream beyond what they've seen in tradition and cultures growing up, especially when we do have a very large percentage of young people that are looking to step outside of the box, to step outside of the norm of the regular career or job that is being placed before them. And lastly, the most important thing that I think we do need to address is, do we have uh, willing mentors, coaches, big brothers and big sisters that will be ready to train, equip, and to pour into these youths? Do we have them that are ready to take them under their wings, to just give them the guidance that they need for wherever they're going, whatever their dreams are? Because for me personally, I've had a lot of young people reached out to me to give them some guidance in different areas of career, and also in being entrepreneurs, because a lot of them are more so looking in that direction. So there is a great need also for those big brothers and big sisters that will be willing to share their knowledge with them and their skill with them, be willing to train them in these different areas that our young people are looking to move into moving forward, with the way the entire world has changed, and just making sure that they are not stuck in the 2000s, but them having access to the latest technology there is, and just being able to have that facility that they'll be able to access that. Thank you so much for this opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Guyana. Thank you so much. That was quite brilliant. Thank you. I hear that Emmanuel Badu is here. Emmanuel, are you here now? Mr. Ghana, are you here now? Okay, let's move on. I want to invite Ms. Harris, Melissa Harris for Antigua.
Good
Go
afternoon.
ahead.
Good afternoon.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. All protocol observed. I would just like to directly thank His Excellency, Dr. Bannister, for inviting me to speak. Today, I'm going to be speaking mainly on the major challenge that we are facing, the youth facing as a result of COVID-19. So again, my name is Melisha Sinclair Harris, and I am representing Antigua and Barbuda. And I would like to say the region as well. So Antigua and Barbuda is a Caribbean small island developing state with a number of distinguishing characteristics. It is actually a microstate of 170 square miles with a population approximating 100,000. The economy is service-based, with tourism being by far the major contributor to economic output, which by 2019 was approaching US $1.5 billion. Accordingly, on a per capita basis, Antigua and Barbuda has continuously been classified as a high-income country on ranking of the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and other similar institutions. These achievements were attained largely through investments in physical infrastructure and in human capital. Therefore, a snapshot of Antigua and Barbuda presents a small country with above average high human development, but with elevated death. The beginning of 2020 brought with it a sense of optimism for Antigua and Barbuda, having achieved a robust record of economic growth over the previous 5 years. By the 6th month into 2020, a frightening reality framed by COVID-19 was emerging as the government was left contemplating a near 20% decline in its annual economic output compared to 2019. On the ground, employment in the tourism sector was wiped out. Construction projects were halted, government revenues plummeted, and expenditure reallocated to reinforce the country's COVID-19 response. The COVID-19 protocols became the new normal as small business closed, curfews were implemented, and strategies to minimize person-to-person contact were employed. One such strategy was the closure of schools, tertiary, secondary, and primary, sadly. As we speak, schools remain closed, directly affecting a significant segment of our population, youth of all school attending age. Quite appropriately, youths are the focus of our deliberation here today as we seek to greater understand how the COVID-19 pandemic is affecting them and what policy responses would be most effective in helping them cope or helping them to cope. As I contemplate specifically the plight of the student population in Antigua and Barbuda, I am struck by the complexity of the challenge that they face in seeking to adjust. Whilst our students are at the center of my reflection, I am also mindful that at the periphery sits two critical stakeholders whose responses to the pandemic will directly weigh on the capacity and ability of students to adjust effectively, parents and teachers. It is my considered opinion, therefore, that in order to achieve the best outcomes for students, the plight of parents and teachers also need to be addressed. And this can be done partly by resolving issues that revolve around an emerging reality, remote learning. The COVID-19 normal has upended the traditional structured method of classroom interactions. The classroom is no longer a physical space. Supervision is not immediately available. Feedback is not always instantaneous, and technology is now a cornerstone of institution. Being keenly aware that the COVID challenge is multifaceted, I would like to focus on the technology gap that has become evident as parents, teachers, and students in Antigua and Barbuda come to grips with remote learning. It has emerged that access to the internet is an issue, with a significant number of parents, teachers finding the cost of home access prohibitive, with the result that students are denied access to learning.
Antigua, you have just 1 minute to go. 1 more minute, please. Thank you.
Okay. In the March 2021 article, The Progressive Case for United Internet Access, How to Close the Digital Divide, Mr. Tony Blair argued that closing the digital divide by 2030 should be one of the primary global policies priorities. Blair concluded, it's time that we make it a reality. Antigua and Barbuda proposes that at this level of the United Nations, there be a global commitment to closing the digital divide, that therefore be a significant movement towards formulating a declaration that would commit ratifying countries to implementing by December 2020, and program aimed to achieving such an outcome by 2030, with students having effective access.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Oh, wonderful. Now I see signs that the Ghanaian is here. So let's go back a little bit before I go to Miss Venezuela. Can we see your hand? Okay, fine. Let's invite Emmanuel Badu, representing Ghana.
Thank you very
Please.
much, Dr. Osita. And thank you very much to Dr. Ada. Thank you for
Welcome.
inviting me and all your patience for me. Thank you. The peace of God be to everyone all.
You have 5 minutes, Emmanuel. Go.
I'm so happy that you invite me today. And today I'm speaking on behalf of the youth in my country, Ghana. I always say that young people are the key agents of the development and must be forefront of global change and innovation. In 2010, Ghana adopted the youth policy, which focused on youth empowerment. The theme of the National Youth Policy of Ghana towards the empowered youth, imparting positive and national development. The policy covered 19 areas, including youth in conflict, preventing and peace building. As part of efforts promoted in Ghana, the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, in partnership with Ghana Center for Democratic Development, CDD Ghana, co-created the multi-skilled holder consulting platform on peace and governances. The platform, as of its activity for the year, engaged young people in Tamale, northern Ghana, on the role of the youth peace building. The COVID global health emergency and economic and social impact has disrupted nearly all aspects of life for groups of society. People of different ages, however, they experience it affects in different ways. For young people, and especially for vulnerable youth, the COVID-19 crisis poses considered risk in the field education, employment, mental health, and disposable income. Moreover, while the youth future generates will shoulder much as long-term economic, social consequences to the crisis, their well-being may be surpassed by the short-term economic inequality consideration. To avoid exacerbating intergenerational equality and involve young people build society resilience, government need to anticipate impacts, motivation, and recovery measures across different age groups. By applying the government mechanism. I have 8 mechanisms here that I'm going to read to you. Number 1, government is to apply youth an intergenerational lens in crisis, response and recovery measures across the public administration. And 2 is to update national youth strategy in collaboration with the young stakeholders to translate a political commitment into the actionable program. 3, partner with National Statistics Office Research Institute to gather disaggregate evidence on the impact of the crisis by age group to track inequality, inform decision making, in addition to other identity factors such as sex, education, social economical background, and employment status. 4, government will anticipating the distribution effect of rulemaking and allocation of public resources across different age cohort by using impact assessment and the creating of strengthening institution to monitor the consequence on today's youth and the future generation. My 5th point is to promote age diversity in public consultation and state institutions to reflect the needs and concern of different age cohorts decision making. 6, the government will leverage.
You have just 1 minute to go. 1 more minute, please.
Okay, I'll wrap it up. Okay, I'll jump. All right. 6.1, government will leverage the young people currently mobilizing in mitigating the crisis through existing mechanism 2 platform. Example, the use of digital tool and the data to rebuild resilience in the society against future shock and the disaster. And lastly, I'll jump from 7. Government should provide targeted policies and services for the most vulnerable youth population, including young people not in employment, education or training, young migrant, homeless, youth, and the young women, adolescents, and children facing increased risk of domestic violence. Thank you very much, Doctor, for my time and everything. And I'll leave this with you. Peace to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you so very much. I'm happy you eventually caught us here, Mr. Ghana.
Thank you.
Now let's go to Venezuela. Shanisa Prasad.
Good afternoon,
Yes, please.
first, I would like to thank Dr. Osita and Dr. Ada.
Venezuela.
I'm going to talk about.
Your volume is so low. Can somebody help us with that?
Okay, just give me 1 minute.
Can we please get a better volume for Ms. Venezuela?
Can I be heard better now?
Yes.
Okay, as I was saying, I am representing Venezuela, and this is my presentation. It is no secret that Venezuela has been undergoing an economic and social crisis for several years. Because of this, life for its citizens has become noticeably challenging, particularly for the youth of our country, especially during the current pandemic. However, the government of Venezuela and the private sector has undertaken a number of initiatives directed at supporting the nation's youth, socially and economically. These programs have aided millions of youth in entering the workforce and securing jobs, impacting their businesses, furthering their studies, and becoming active and productive members of society. We have focused on promoting of entrepreneurial youth to the development of economic activities and social productivity to guarantee the future in strengthening the country's economy. Our government recognizes that the youth is the critical pillar, which is why we started the Chamba Juvenil program in 2017. The Chamba Juvenil plan is aimed at people who are unemployed between ages 15 and 35, offering them an opportunity to enter the workforce and further their studies through jobs and scholarships respectively to satisfy the Venezuelan population's needs. The way to attract young people is through the national card or by registering on the government's page available to people. This program seeks to attract unemployed university students, young people in school, single mother with family responsibilities, and young people living on the streets, offering them jobs at different institutions. Through this program, the young people receive practical and theoretical training for a year and a half and receive payment during their training by the institution that recruits them. Numerous banking institutions in the country have partnered with the government in including the Chamba Juvenil Plan in their structures to give young people the opportunity of a job at an early age. In addition to this, our government has partnered with the Bank of Venezuela, one of the central banks in our country, to loan millions of bolivars to help finance young entrepreneurs as part of the National Plan of Entrepreneurship for the Venezuelan Youth. Several other governmental banking institutions have also become involved in helping the youth of our country through finance. Venezuelan youth between the ages of 18 and 35 can obtain credits for entrepreneurial projects from these institutions. The state banks have increased their loan limit for these projects, and they have begun incorporating the previously mentioned Samba Juvenil Plan into their structures to augment work, discipline, and leadership values in the nation's youth. Along with offering them the opportunity of studying in the INSES, a Venezuelan Institute of Education, and working in financial entities so they can continue growing professionally, and with this, have good job opportunities, which goes hand in hand with SDGs 8 and 4 on decent work and economic growth and quality education, respectively. Venezuela's government recognizes the importance of our nation's youth, and we will continue to implement programs and initiatives that benefit them in their early years. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for keeping the time and all. I'll go straight to the next country. Please, let's welcome the Nigerian representative, Van Jamko, Nigeria.
Thank you. I would like to share my screen.
Okay. You have 5 minutes, shared screen.
I don't have access to, can you enable me to share the screen?
Yes, Dr. Ada, is anybody helping with that? Amaka, is anybody helping with sharing screen for Nigeria? Did you send your presentation to Forward, Ambassador Forward?
No.
Oh, okay. The host is not here now. Is there any way you can go without sharing?
If you can email me your presentation very quickly, I can share it for you.
Okay, can you just send your email in the group chat?
That will take out. So while you do that, Amaka and Nigeria, let's go to the next speaker. Go ahead, share your email address so that she can dump it in your mail.
Yes, send it to the CSL Exchange email address.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so let's quickly take the rep from Libya, my friend Tobias Nairoki. Mr. Libya, are you there? Amaka, I can see other representatives that are not on my list. So can you want me to take them individually? I see.
If they were not on the list, they have not been approved. But if they have something prepared, they are more than welcome to share.
Absolutely, that's what I'm thinking. I see a representative from. I don't know, it's not in full here. There are not on my list, but I find 2 or 3 other representatives here. So let's say something to me if you're representing any country and you're ready. Talk to me. I can't see your name, so I can't call you, but I need to know what country you represent so that we can invite you to speak. Has Nigeria shared her presentation to you, Maka? Did she send it to you yet? Is there anybody here who wants to represent any country that is not on my list?
I thought Nigeria was on the list.
Yes, Nigeria was supposed to, yes, but she's trying to share her presentation. We wanted you to help, but
okay, she wants to share. Okay, let me give her sharing rights. Is that what she wants?
Yes, please do. Thank you. After Nigeria will be Tobias for Libya. I hear he has power problem in Kenya. So I pray he comes in before.
Okay,
Nigeria.
you don't have the story right.
Nigeria, come, go ahead, 5 minutes.
All right, I'm just trying to get it set up now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Are you okay?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it should show. Is it showing right now?
It's showing. Yeah, it's coming up now.
Coming up.
Is it showing now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Hello, everyone. I would like to acknowledge Dr. Sanchez, Dr. Okita, and all the organizers of this forum and thank them for inviting me and having me. I'll be presenting on Nigerian youth, building an inclusive and effective path for the achievement of the 2020 agenda in the context of the decade of action and delivery for sustainable development. Nigeria is referred to as the giant of Africa because it has the largest economy in Africa. Unfortunately, Nigeria's unemployment rate is up by 14% for the last 5 years, with 14 million of its youths unemployed, compelling the government to launch various initiatives to combat unemployment. Ongoing government initiatives for youth empowerment. The Special Public Works is a program designed to offer up to 750,000 unemployed youth 3-month placements with salary of $51 equivalent to 20,000 in Nigerian currency. The Nigerian Youth Employment Action Plan, this program emphasizes on entrepreneurship development, employment creation, and equal opportunity. This program is created to empower the youth between the ages of 18 to 34 and to create at least 500,000 jobs between 2020 and 2023. There are other initiatives launched by different ministries. Amongst the most prominent are the Federal Ministry of Youth Development, Agriculture and Rural Development, Youth and Sports Development, and Information and Culture. Each administration comes with an action plan and programs to curb youth unemployment, but these programs hardly make a significant change in the rising unemployment rates because they lack an inclusive and effective sustainable framework. So what can be done? Policy imperative. The problem of youth unemployment in Nigeria is of twofold: unemployment of well-educated youths and unemployment of fairly or non-educated youths. Some youth initiatives target only a few low socioeconomic non-educated youths, whilst well-educated youths are given access to employment initiatives that demand proof of business as a condition. So how can there be proof of business when they do not have the financial capacity to create a business? Sustainable development for Nigerian youth requires both long-term and short-term development plans by both the government and the youth. Existing youth employment initiatives, both for educated and non-educated youth, should be synchronized and tailored within a broader strategy to promote active private sectors like entertainment, hospitality, agriculture, traditional handcraft, and tailoring. Government should identify major constraints to the development and efficacy of active private sectors and correct them to enable small business owners and entrepreneurs to have the capacity to expand and create more jobs. Constraints could be infrastructure, that is power and transport, trade policies, tax policies. This will not only create jobs, but will attract foreign investors to move their businesses to the country, thereby providing jobs for the youth. Youth initiative programs should identify skills useful in both local and international markets and improve the quality of skill training programs, promote equal access regardless of gender, ethnicity, disability, to promote informal and formal education. The youth, both educated and non-educated, should consider acquiring these specialized skills, in vocational skills that are useful for survival of the local community and region. Among the most useful vocational skills are tailoring, weaving, wood carving, and embroidery. Traditional handcrafted products are sought after internationally. So engaging in e-commerce can be very lucrative for local artisans. The creation of youth initiatives could incorporate accountability frameworks that is independent of government influence. The creation of initiatives should include input from both formal and informal educators to better understand and present the needs of the youth. This
One
is
more minute.
This is a okay, thank you. Okay. Okay. This is a model that could be useful in addressing and developing a sustainable framework. Thank you.
Okay. That was quite on time. Thank you so much, Ms. Nigeria. Thank you. Very brilliant presentation.
Thank you.
Next, let's go to Libya. Mr. Libya, you have 5 minutes. Mr. Libya, I thought your power is back. Is there anybody there that I have not invited to speak yet? Is there anybody representing any other country that I have not called on to speak? Or if I call you earlier and you were not here and you just arrived, please indicate so that I can invite you back. Otherwise, if Tobias...
Hello, sir.
Yes, Alan Nawaz.
Yes, sir. This is Alan Nawaz.
Yes, you're from Pakistan, right?
Yes, I am from Pakistan. Thank you very much, Dr. Ada Joniokika.
Yeah, welcome.
Am I audible?
Yes, please. You are audible. Talk to us. 5 minutes, Pakistan.
We don't want to...
Thank you very much.
Excuse me, before you present, we need to change your name to representative of Pakistan. We don't want to have...
All right, all right. I just give me a second. I'm going to change it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that right?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, please. 5 minutes.
I was listening all speakers and excellencies. I was very glad. I'm glad to join this prestigious platform where the representative of every nation is presenting their own ideas, how we can develop and how we can face the challenges and how we can sort out the solutions, especially in the decade which is full of challenges. Like for the underdeveloped nations, like for Pakistan and Africa. So the thing that come into my mind that I would like to share with all my colleagues here in this meeting, that we should increase the number of platforms where we can interact with each other, like the youth from Pakistan, youth from East Asia or South Asia will interact with the youth from Africa to sort out more solutions to the problems like internet connectivity, or we are not given more platforms as those people who are living in Europe or America, they are enjoying. So we should collaborate, we should send youth delegates from Pakistan into Africa and from Africa into Pakistan. And by this collaboration with each other, we can develop a better future for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. That was quick and to the point. Connectivity, networking, relationship building, that's it. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Pakistan. Thank you. Is Tobias here now? Otherwise, we waited for him for so long. Okay, I will invite Dr. Ada to close this part and then close the day so that we all get ready for tomorrow. Madam Chancellor.
Wow, bravo. I can't believe this. Can we just clap for yourselves?
Unmute and clap for ourselves. Unmute, please, and clap for yourselves. Yes, thank you.
I can't believe that we are having good future leaders, future presidents, and heads of state, prime ministers. That was excellent presentation, you know, and I'm so proud because Nobody mentored you what to do. You were not mentored, you were not educated, you were not trained. So you were able to do this, which is excellent. So I'm
Thank you.
proud of your presentations, representative of countries. And this is exactly what you did now is just what the presidents of your countries do at United Nations for youth, So it's amazing that we are trying to engage ourselves, rebuild our thought processes to align with the agendas of Decade of Action, which is not leaving anything behind. We are supposed to be educated, we are supposed to be enriched, empowered, we are supposed to have education and exchange, we are supposed to experience entrepreneurship in everything we are doing within the Decade of Action. So it's very important that excellent job you guys did. And I want us to encourage ourselves to do more. In the next youth big event by United Nations is August 12th, which is the International Day of Youth. So we're going to start it with on 11 with the Youth Gather Global General Assembly for us to have more youth representations to speak on countries. So the coordinators, the country coordinator, regional coordinators, we need to build on what we've just done. So it's an excellent work we are just doing. And this is the first time. And we all know that the first cut is the deepest. So this is an excellent foundation we have laid. And we want to, just as speakers have mentioned, we need education, we need innovation, we need creativity to be able to get the youth involved. And someone was asking, what is this organization all about? This is a Youth Gather Global, an initiative of 3 organizations with the mission of engaging youth for the Decade of Action. So this is what we are engaging them to knowledge, to be more knowledgeable, to get involved, to be creative on the issues about the development agenda, because that is the bedrock of the future we are talking about. So it's been a very good day. We were able to be patient enough to have heard from our special guest speakers, who have made excellent innovation and ideas into us. I hope we all learned a lot on the management strategies. I really learned from that, presented by Dr. Anuku. In fact, it's a form of training, leadership training, management strategies will be part of our leadership training for all youth that we are scheduling for May the 2nd. So we are working towards rebranding ourselves to see a brighter future, since the Sustainable Development Goals are giving us the yardstick, are giving us the policies and the guidelines to think above 2030, to think about our future. You can imagine what you did now, and if you build and grow on it, how you will be in the next 10 years about yourself, in your community, and in your environment. So it is an important factor for us to truly engage ourselves. So tomorrow is another day. Tomorrow is going to be more educative and more lucrative. We are going to launch our cultural self-emotional learning project. We are going to learn from diplomatic education, and we're also going to learn from the education about the United Nations General Assembly. And these are from diplomats, United Nations experts. So get your people. We started with our 100 and something people, but we are ending with 56. I know at times the timing issue of network, and some people feel that tired. All these things makes us not to bet. When you are focused in what you want to learn, you really have to make the sacrifice. So tomorrow program is also very enriching. So get your friends, get your colleagues. I want to see more you, because tomorrow is solely for us. We want to learn more from tomorrow event. So I don't want us to waste more time. Tomorrow, same time, 9 a.m., we get on again and we finish early. Today, we just finished before 1 p.m. This is quite unlike my program. My program lasts to 4 p.m. And now we're not even up to 1 p.m. So I think I am graduating from my own side, you know. You know, so it's a good thing we're able to make it, and we want to thank all the speakers. I'm not going to give a closing reply, except Her Excellency Laila is not here, but she's the one to give the closing remarks for today. The Director of Programs, is she still on?
No, she's not here. I think she's programming for tomorrow. She's gonna be here tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So,
let's get Amaka Agulu say goodbye to everybody so that we can close.
Yes. So I want to thank you all as I hand over to Deputy Director of Programs and the convener for the C-Cell project, Amaka.
Yes, thank you for that wonderful introduction. Dr. Ada has already said it all. We are all excited that, we are launching our youth together. We are getting very succinct in our messaging. So if there's anything you heard today, I hope you know that we are all here for youth, and we all support you all in whatever it is you want to do, to bring us to a positive global future. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for your time. Your time has been very valuable. Thank you to all the representatives of the countries during the mock General Assembly. There were so many informative presentations, so much information provided. I hope you all learned from that as well. Thank you all, and have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. And we will see you back here early at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before we close, I just want to announce that any youth who wants to be a country coordinator in the country, send us email at youthgather.global@gmail.com so that we can present you tomorrow. I have one already working a country coordinator. So tomorrow we'll have to introduce the file. So if there's anyone who is interested in any country, can you send your can you mute yourself, please? Yeah, anyone who has interest or passion to be a coordinator of any country on Youth Gather Global, send us your profile, your name, your photograph to youthgather.global@gmail.com so that you will be introduced tomorrow. So thank you for your time today, and see you tomorrow.
What do you need to be the youth coordinator?
Thank you so much, everyone.
I want us to, as you go, listen to the opening remarks today at the UN by the president of ECOSOC.
Yes.
Good morning. I'm pleased to welcome you all to the 2021 Youth Forum of the Economic and Social Council, and I call to order its first meeting. The forum will hold its meetings using remote simultaneous interpretation. I kindly ask participants to be mindful of the additional difficulties experienced by interpreters when working remotely, and to deliver statements at a normal speaking speed. I apologize in advance for any technical difficulties that we may encounter during our virtual meetings. Mr. President of the General Assembly, Mr. President of the Republic of Costa Rica, Mr. Secretary General of the United Nations, Excellencies,
It is a pleasure to address you today at the opening of the 10th ECOSOC Youth Forum, which is taking place in the new normal that we have adapted to over the past year. The COVID-19 pandemic has affected everyone, everywhere. One group most hurt by the pandemic is undoubtedly you, our youth. Some of you may have lost loved ones who have succumbed to the effects of COVID-19 or struggled with mental health issues. Perhaps you have experienced a disruption in your education, or you may be finding it difficult to find work. I know that for many of you, a year may feel like a lifetime. But take it from me, it really is not. Do not become disillusioned. This pandemic will pass. Until then, please avail of all opportunities that come your way. Reach out and connect with your peers and explore all avenues of learning. Join us in the General Assembly Hall through UN Web TV. Tune into our upcoming events and learn about our efforts to protect oceans, advance digital cooperation, and end corruption. Your insights are essential to the work of the United Nations. Whether you are from a small island developing country, a least developed country, a landlocked developing country, or a developed country, we need to hear from you. You drew our attention to the climate crisis and called for the implementation of the Paris Agreement. At the UN General Assembly special session on the COVID-19 response, Youth Representative Vladislav Kaim declared that joblessness among youth is a pandemic that will continue until after the actual pandemic is done. He called for a prioritization of the needs of the next generation of taxpayers, policymakers, and activists. This is critical to securing a healthy, safe future that is more resilient to global threats. Youth is not a homogeneous group, so we need all of you to speak up, to share your lived experiences, to amplify the voices of your peers who have been silenced, to make space for those who have been marginalized. Over the next 2 days, we are passing the mic to you, but it is your responsibility to pass it along to the most vulnerable voices that have not yet reached the United Nations, including young refugees. This will be essential as we seek to recover better and promote the economic, social, and environmental dimensions of sustainable development, and will require a whole of society intergenerational approach. We will need you to step up and help us. I call on all of you here today to take action, to accelerate energy transformation, to close the energy and digital divide that threaten to leave people behind. I'm sure that the next 2 days will give rise to fruitful discussions and ideas as to how we can ensure a sustainable and resilient recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, to build peace and uphold the human rights of the people we serve. We are looking to you as the drivers of the fourth industrial revolution to guide us. Never doubt your power. You are the problem solvers who will find the solutions to the existential challenges humanity will face in the future. You are the defenders of the equal, inalienable, and fundamental human rights for all. You are the keepers of peace, the guardians of the Charter of the United Nations. Together, you are 1.8 billion strong. You will forge our pathway to 2030 and beyond. You have the power to create a better world for all. We are with you every step of the way.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Wonderful having you all today. Thank you and see you tomorrow.